Qijue star cluster civilization to confront Gu Qijue. He would most likely be the one to suffer in the end. Although Murong Xiefeng acted wildly, he wasn't completely brainless. Initially, he had misjudged Gu Qijue's strength and made a wrong decision, which led to him suffering a great loss at Gu Qijue's hands. This time, even if he wanted to act against Gu Qijue, he would wait until Gu Qijue was alone before making his move. He would strive for a single, decisive blow to kill Gu Qijue to avoid further trouble. Gu Qijue initially did not pay much attention to a playboy like Murong Xiefeng. After learning about some of Murong Xiefeng's subsequent actions, he couldn't help but think more highly of him. As long as a person understands how to endure, they can more or less accomplish some things, because such people are pragmatic and know when to advance and retreat. Such an enemy is also more threatening than a fool who wears everything on their sleeve. If Murong Xiefeng were a thoughtless fool, Gu Qijue would not pay much attention to him in the future. But since Murong Xiefeng had some depth, Gu Qijue had to continue to monitor him. At the appropriate time, he might even need to act decisively and eliminate Murong Xiefeng. Murong Xiefeng, of course, didn't know that his immediate retaliation against Gu Qijue was the wrong move, but his choice to endure also brought trouble. In short, it was his bad luck to become Gu Qijue's enemy. After Gu Qijue had the infinite engine monitor Murong Xiefeng, he didn't continue to pay attention to the guy. After his mechanical golden lions were upgraded and modified, Gu Qijue used a positioning teleportation star chart to leave the Moonlight base. The place he was going was one of the Golden Lion King's treasure troves. The warriors of the Moonlight Legion still needed to train for some time. While they were training and improving, he could go and retrieve the treasure trove left by the Golden Lion King. When Gu Qijue arrived at this Golden Lion King's treasure trove, he found that the Star Cluster Alliance's combat forces and the Klein people were fighting fiercely in the vicinity. However, the battle here was very lively, and neither side noticed Gu Qijue and the Bone Prison Hound. Although the warring parties didn't discover them, Gu Qijue still felt a bit of a headache. After observing carefully for a moment, he said helplessly, "This is a bit troublesome. The battle here probably won't end anytime soon." The Bone Prison Hound heard this and said, "Your Excellency, the head of state, should we go somewhere else?" It knew why Gu Qijue said it was troublesome. Because the entrance to the Golden Lion King's treasure trove was almost at the center of the battlefield. Unless the Klein people and the Star Cluster Alliance's combat forces decided the victor here, Gu Qijue would not be able to enter silently. After the Protos ruins opened, the commotion was considerable. Gu Qijue opening the Protos ruins would inevitably be detected by the Klein people and the Star Cluster Alliance. The Bone Prison Hound's suggestion was quite correct. After a moment of contemplation, Gu Qijue said, "I'll observe a bit more. If there's truly no other way, then we'll go somewhere else." After speaking, he and the Bone Prison Hound concealed themselves and observed from the outskirts of the battlefield. This observation lasted for half a day. They had surveyed the entire area around the battlefield. Then Gu Qijue discovered that all the Klein people in this area were biomodified organisms. There was a significant difference between biomodified organisms and pure Klein people. However, the combat capabilities of these biomodified organisms were also extraordinary. To kill one biomodified Klein person, the Star Cluster Alliance would lose about 5 Alliance warriors. The battlefield here should have been ongoing for some time. Therefore, the attention of the Klein people and the Star Cluster Alliance was basically focused on the battlefield, especially the center of the conflict. This made Gu Qijue think of a tactic to strike directly at the heart, as he had done in the past. This tactic, of course, was not a good one. If the Klein people's base were so easy to penetrate, the Star Cluster Alliance's combat forces would have done so long ago. A fully established Klein people's base often has very strong defenses. To strike directly at the heart, a supremely powerful vanguard force is needed to tear open a defensive breach. It also requires a large number of elite troops to quickly follow up. Otherwise, it cannot pose a threat to the Klein people's base. 336. Shoot straight for the enemy's heart. Enter the battlefield of Gu Qijue. Such an incredibly powerful vanguard unit is generally not used on a battlefield like this. Coincidentally, Gu Qijue happened to have a combat unit that met the requirements. The mechanical Golden Lions unit, which had just completed its upgrade, a ND Chinese letter not long ago, was perfectly capable of fulfilling the combat mission of a vanguard unit. His Blackstone Legion, Han Yiming's Divine Light Legion, and the Moonlight Legion he was currently training could handle the subsequent combat missions. Once the battle on this battlefield was completely over, he could enter this Protos ruins to retrieve what the Golden Lion King had left behind. Not only that, resolving these Klein people would also bring numerous benefits. The Blackstone Legion could acquire spoils of war. The advancements of Han Yiming and the Divine Light Legion would allow them to present a satisfactory interim report to Vice Premier Hansen. If Vice Premier Hansen was satisfied, he would naturally continue to support him. Furthermore, the Moonlight Legion could also obtain spoils of war and gain combat opportunities, allowing him to give an account to the Gu Star Cluster civilization. In short, this was a brilliant plan that killed 4 birds with 1 stone. Thinking of this, Gu Qijue returned to Blackstone Base to find Han Yiming. Han Yiming knew about Gu Qijue's previous departure. He even knew that Gu Qijue had fought Murong Zifeng in the Gu Star Cluster and dealt with Murong Zifeng. Han Yiming had thought that Gu Qijue wouldn't return to Blackstone Base for a while. Unexpectedly, Gu Qijue returned not long after. Upon seeing Han Yiming, Gu Qijue smiled and said, "Brother Han, in about 30 days, we will be conducting a military operation. I'll send you the specific battlefield data later." Han Yiming not only hadn't expected Gu Qijue to return to Blackstone Base so quickly, but he also hadn't expected this fellow to be so audacious. From Gu Qijue's current performance, he clearly didn't put Murong Zifeng, a second-generation scion of a star cluster civilization, in his eyes at all. He had just dealt with Murong Zifeng, and immediately, without stopping, he had a new combat plan. Before thoroughly understanding Gu Qijue, Han Yiming had placed himself and Gu Qijue on the same level. Gu Qijue was an outstanding talent, but wasn't Han Yiming also an extraordinary individual? However, as his understanding of Gu Qijue deepened, he couldn't help but feel a little frustrated. While he was indeed formidable, Gu Qijue seemed to have a cheat, making him utterly incomparable. Meeting such a person, he could only concede defeat and maintain a friendship with him. Han Yiming soon received the battlefield data and learned where Gu Qijue would be fighting soon. However, Gu Qijue only gave him the battlefield data, not the operational deployment. This couldn't help but spark a competitive spirit in Han Yiming's heart. He planned to thoroughly study this battlefield and see if he could devise a better combat plan. When Gu Qijue was ready to make his operational deployment, he would compare his plan with Gu Qijue's. Gu Qijue didn't know that Han Yiming was going to do this, otherwise he would have definitely advised Han Yiming not to, because his strategy was to strike at the heart, directly attacking the Klein people's base. This was incomprehensible and unimaginable for most people. Therefore, even if Han Yiming was a genius, he wouldn't think of his strategic deployment, nor would he have a better plan. This wasn't a matter of ability, but a matter of hidden cards and information asymmetry. Unfortunately, Gu Qijue didn't know about this, so Han Yiming could only waste his time. For the next period, everything went very smoothly. Blackstone Base and Divine Light Base were completely constructed. The Blackstone Legion and the Divine Light Legion also underwent a series of training exercises. At the same time, the Moonlight Legion was also making rapid progress, quickly improving. The entire Moonlight Legion strictly followed Gu Qijue's requirements and completed 3 phases of training. After all preparations were thoroughly completed, Gu Qijue began this joint operation of the 4 legions. The mechanical Golden Lions served as the vanguard, the Blackstone Legion and the Divine Light Legion as the main force, and the Moonlight Legion as the rear guard. Their target was a Klein people's base on the Gu Star Cluster battlefield. On the outskirts of the battlefield, under Gu Qijue's command, the forces of the 4 legions rapidly assembled in the Void Realm. In the Void Realm, Gu Qijue stood tall and imposing. Beside him were Han Yiming and Hue Linglong. In front of them, 3,000 Golden Lion King warriors stood ready. Behind, 10 million Blackstone Legion combat troops and 10 million Divine Light Legion combat troops were eager to fight. Compared to the first 3 legions, the Gu Star Cluster civilization's Moonlight Legion felt somewhat lacking in confidence. After a series of comprehensive improvements, they had indeed been reborn, but they were not yet battle-hardened elites, and their combat experience was relatively scarce. After all combat units had assembled, Gu Qijue began to address them. For this operation, our target is the Klein people's base in the rear of the battlefield. The defenses of this Klein people's base are very strong, making a direct assault almost impossible. However, what ordinary combat units cannot do, you can. As soon as Gu Qijue said this, the thoughts of many warriors in the Blackstone Legion, Divine Light Legion, and Moonlight Legion were, "Commander, we can't do it." But Gu Qijue didn't let them speak, instead continuing to outline the strategic deployment. Han Yiming, who had been secretly speculating about Gu Qijue's operational deployment, was completely stunned. He had never imagined that Gu Qijue's strategic deployment would actually be to strike at the heart. To catch the thief, first catch the king, this saying is certainly true, but it must also be combined with the actual situation. If one adheres to dogmatism, it will inevitably lead to a dead end. However, after Gu Qijue articulated the complete operational deployment, Han Yiming and the others fell silent. Gu Qijue's voice, once again carried by pure energy, spread in all directions. I'll emphasize again for the upcoming operation. The mechanical Golden Lions will lead the charge. After the mechanical Golden Lions tear a gap in the Klein people's defenses, the Blackstone Legion and Divine Light Legion will immediately follow closely. After that, the 10 million warriors of the Moonlight Legion must also keep up. Our goal this time is to charge into the Klein people's base with overwhelming momentum. Once the base is breached, the main force of the Klein people on the battlefield will inevitably fall into chaos. Now, make your final preparations. In 10 minutes, follow me into the battlefield. As Gu Qijue's voice fell, the atmosphere in the Void Realm became unprecedentedly solemn. On the battlefield, everyone became serious, even more serious, although they had all been on the battlefield and more than once. However, their combat mission this time was more arduous than ever before. Nevertheless, there weren't many thoughts in everyone's hearts, because Gu Qijue, as the commander of the 4 legions, would still lead by example and be the first to break through the enemy lines. 10 minutes passed in a flash. A heaven-shaking dragon roar suddenly erupted. In an instant, Gu Qijue once again entered his semi-dragon transformation's second combat state. 337, Port Verbena Base. A famous scene recreated. The Star Cluster Alliance has always lost 9 out of 10 battles against the Klein people. The same was true on the Fubei Port battlefield where Gu Qijue and the others were located. Fubei Port is one of the Huyu Star Cluster civilization's commercial ports, and the Klein people occupying it has had a huge impact on the Huyu Star Cluster. On the Fubei Port battlefield, the Star Cluster Alliance joint forces, primarily composed of Huyu Star Cluster combat units, had been fighting bitterly for a long time. After the sudden evaporation of the Azure Star Cluster civilization, all parties within the Star Cluster Alliance began to fully assist their allies. Supporting other star clusters meant their own combat units would suffer losses, but it was still better than letting the Klein people invade the star domain governed by their own star cluster. Although all sides of the Star Cluster Alliance had started getting serious, the combat capability of the Klein people truly cannot be underestimated. On the Fubei Port battlefield, the Star Cluster Alliance forces had yet to achieve any major victories. However, this situation would soon be completely rewritten. After long preparation, an elite, powerful army, a force of tigers and wolves, was already heading toward the Klein people's base. When Gu Qijue, the mechanical Golden Lions, the Blackstone Legion, the Divine Light Legion, and the Moonlight Legion appeared on the battlefield, the Klein people immediately discovered them. Facing these unwelcome guests, the Klein people decisively dispatched a fleet to intercept them. Although the Fubei port base was impregnable, if they could intercept Gu Qijue and the others midway, it would clearly be better to eliminate them en route. Swoosh! From the Fubei port base, starships, numerous mechanized warriors, and many Klein people rapidly ascended into the sky. Their target was the suddenly appearing Gu Qijue and his company. Although the Klein people had already deployed a large number of combat units on the Fubei port battlefield, they still had a large number of fresh troops in the rear. Seeing thousands of interstellar warships continuously ascending, many members of the Moonlight Legion became very nervous. They were different from the Blackstone Legion, which had followed Gu Qijue into battle many times and had rich battlefield experience. As for the Divine Light Legion, they were Han Yiming's personal troops, and every warrior was a seasoned veteran. Only the Moonlight Legion was relatively lacking in battlefield experience, facing a large number of Klein people. Many of them were currently afraid. This was, of course, perfectly normal as they were facing the notoriously fierce Klein people. Compared to the members of the Moonlight Legion, Gu Qijue was extremely calm and collected. He simply did not regard the Klein people charging toward them as invincible enemies. His confidence stemmed partly from his strength and partly from the comprehensive analysis provided by the Infinite Engine. According to the Infinite Engine's analysis, their chances of winning this battle were very high. However, the situation on the battlefield changes rapidly. Just because their chances of winning are high now does not mean they will ultimately achieve victory. Even if they achieve victory, it could be a Pyrrhic victory. in order to eliminate these Klein people at the lowest possible cost. The only thing everyone needed to do was go all out and fight desperately to kill the enemy. Only in this way could they eliminate the enemy in the shortest possible time. As the Klein people's fleet drew closer and closer to Gu Qijue's position, Han Yiming and Hua Linglong witnessed the replication of the famous scene that had made Gu Qijue renowned. Whoosh! Energy surged throughout Gu Qijue's body, and a blood spear instantly condensed. Then, with earth-shattering power, he violently hurled the blood spear in his hand. A blood spear streaked across the cosmic void realm, tearing fine, fragmented cracks into the surrounding space. Boom! In the next moment, several mechanized warriors attempting to block Gu Qijue's strike were instantly blown apart. The blood spear, like a long rainbow piercing the sun, continued to approach a starship. Buzz! The Klein people aboard the starship realized something was wrong. They quickly activated the starship's energy shield to withstand Gu Qijue's terrifying attack. But they underestimated Gu Qijue. This was only an E-rank cosmic-level starship, with a rank equivalent to Gu Qijue's. Under these circumstances, for the Klein people on the starship not to maximize the power of the energy shield was simply courting death. Boom! The blood spear hurled by Gu Qijue violently collided with the energy shield of the E-rank starship. Boom! Crack, crack! The many Klein people aboard the starship never imagined that Gu Qijue's blood spear possessed such terrifying power. The starship's energy shield only resisted Gu Qijue's attack for an instant before being devastatingly shattered into dust. Rumble. Bang. After losing the protection of its energy shield, the massive starship was instantly blasted apart by Gu Qijue's blood spear, exploding into magnificent fireworks in midair. Gu Qijue destroyed a starship with a single raised hand attack. This was undoubtedly a huge morale boost for the people behind him. In an instant, everyone's aura soared like a rainbow, and they began approaching the Fubei port base at an even faster speed. As they drew closer, fierce clashes also erupted between the two sides. On the Fubei port battlefield, a few high-level officials knew about Gu Qijue and his team's operation, but they were highly skeptical of its success. In their view, Gu Qijue's tactic this time was extremely risky. However, since Gu Qijue was willing to deplete the Klein people's effective forces, they would not stop him. After Gu Qijue blasted one of the Klein people's starships, he continued forward. 3,000 Golden Lion King warriors followed closely at his side. They were like a sharp dagger, constantly tearing apart the Klein people's fleet. Many Klein people were astonished that the Star Cluster Alliance possessed such a force of tigers and wolves. Gu Qijue was originally an E-rank cosmic-level warrior, but after entering the second combat form of semi-dragon transformation, his strength immediately reached E-rank peak. Wielding his blood spear, he maneuvered freely among the Klein people warriors, sweeping away all opposition. Absolutely no one could stop him. Arvis, the deputy commander of the Blackstone Legion, performed equally well on the battlefield. He was like a silver killing machine, continuously charging and fighting everywhere. Although the combat power he displayed was not as formidable as Gu Qijue's, it was not far behind. The 3,000 Golden Lion King warriors also switched to the mechanical Golden Lion's combat form upon entering the battlefield. Their energy shields were as powerful as ever. Gu Qijue led this torrent of steel, easily breaking through and crushing the Klein people's fleet. Shortly after engaging, the formation of the Klein people's fleet at the Fubei port base was completely disrupted. After Gu Qijue led the mechanical Golden Lions through the enemy line, he brought them back to continue the charge. The Blackstone Legion, the Divine Light Legion, and the Moonlight Legion also joined the battle. Just like that, after Gu Qijue and the mechanical Golden Lions charged back and forth more than 10 times, all the Klein people's starships were reduced to scrap metal. 338, Lightning Chain Generator, Warhammer Warrior. The Klein people of Fubei Port initially didn't take Gu Qijue seriously. After realizing Gu Qijue's power, they immediately made adjustments. Large numbers of elites were mobilized to stop Gu Qijue. After Gu Qijue led 3,000 mechanical Golden Lions and 3 other legions to their first victory, he continued to charge. Boom! As energy surged through his body, blood spears were instantly condensed one after another. These blood spears, imbued with terrifying power, would be hurled out in the next moment. The Klein people's E-class starships could only withstand his terrifying offensive by fully activating their energy shields. As for the other Klein people, such an attack meant certain death. Hua Linglong and the Moonlight Legion members were all very excited. It was their first time realizing that their battles with the Klein people could be fought this way. On the Fubei port side, although the Klein people reacted correctly at the first moment, unfortunately, Their most elite combat units and many other combat units were all tied up on the main battlefield and couldn't break free. This meant that when the Fubei port base was attacked, they didn't have enough troops for defense. However, the Klein people in the Fubei port base weren't overly concerned. Even if they couldn't eliminate Gu Qijue and his forces outside the base, Gu Qijue wouldn't be able to directly invade the base. Gu Star Cluster. Communication Channel. At this moment, the various bigwigs of the Gu Star Cluster were all paying attention to this battle. Gu Qijue was an excellent commander, but many successes could not be replicated. Therefore, the various bigwigs of the Gu Star Cluster, as well as many elites and ordinary people from the Gu Star Cluster, were all following the real-time battle situation here. When Gu Qijue began his operation, many people felt quite uneasy. If one were to evaluate Gu Qijue's actions this time, it would be underestimating the enemy and advancing rashly. But as time passed, the Gu Star Cluster's communication channel became lively. A large number of battle reports and combat footage were continuously uploaded. Everyone in the Gu Star Cluster was extremely surprised and delighted for a time. At this moment, everyone also eagerly spoke up on the communication channel, one after another. Too strong, as expected of Commander Gu Qijue, who trained the Blackstone Legion. Commander Gu Qijue not only possesses superb training and command abilities, but his personal combat power is also terrifying. The famous scene of blowing up a starship with one spear is simply too cool. I want to bear children for Commander Gu Qijue. Hold on, stop being infatuated for a moment, you're still a child yourself. And you want to bear children for Commander Gu Qijue? Gu Qijue was unaware of the lively chatter on the communication channel. Under his leadership, the Combined Legion had won 3 battles in a row, rapidly approaching the Fubei port base. Boom, 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 boom. As they fought their way here, they also encountered the Klein people's fiercest attack. As far as the eye could see, there were overwhelming super-energy laser cannons. Buzz, facing this scene, the mechanical golden lions showed no fear. Amid countless astonished gazes, they directly raised their energy shields, then met the attack head-on, advancing through countless laser cannons. Numerous laser cannons struck the mechanical golden lion's energy shields, deflecting directly as if raindrops falling on a lotus leaf. Inside the Fubei port base, many Klein people watched this scene with wide eyes. How can the energy shields of these mechanical golden lions be so strong? No Klein person around could answer the Klein commander's question. The mechanical golden lions were, after all, one of the Golden Lion King's trump cards, so their value was naturally very high. With the mechanical golden lions leading the charge, the attacking pace of the Blackstone Legion, Divine Light Legion, and Moonlight Legion was almost unimpeded. Boom, 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 under the bombardment of countless laser cannons. The Combined Legion's combat units still rapidly approached the Fubei port base. Sizzle! It was also at this time that Gu Qijue saw the Klein people's black technology. It was a laser cannon that generated lightning chains, and the mechanical golden lion's energy shields could not deflect these lightning chains. Crack! Boom! When the lightning chain struck, 5 mechanical golden lions in a straight line were actually blown up directly. Not only that, but the lightning chain continued its momentum, killing towards the rear. Boom! A Blackstone Legion starship was also directly destroyed at this moment. Gu Qijue had always known that the Klein people had a lot of black technology, although the mechanical golden lions could be created after the infinite engine upgrade. The cost of mechanical golden lions was very expensive, even if damaged. It was better than being completely destroyed. Sizzle! There were 5 lightning chain laser cannons in the Fubei port base, and these weapons posed a great threat to the Combined Legion. Neither the mechanical golden lions nor the fleet behind them could withstand their attacks. Facing such terrifying weapons, Gu Qijue's choice was to quickly approach and destroy them. Amidst many shocked gazes, Gu Qijue, holding a blood spear, was the first to approach the Klein people's base. The Klein people's base energy shield was also very powerful. Their outer shield could protect all facilities of the base. Their core shield, on the other hand, could protect the main part of the base. Facing Gu Qijue's sudden assault, the Klein people quickly made a decision. Klein Commander Anchor calmly said, "Activate the core energy shield and all other offensive facilities. Full firepower." As his order was given, many Klein people immediately took action. Buzz and indestructible. Impregnable energy shield instantly appeared. The core area of the Fubei port base was entirely enveloped by this energy shield. The numerous laser cannons and various missiles on the periphery began firing at maximum power. The 5 lightning chain laser cannons even unleashed a sky full of lightning chains. Sizzle, boom, 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 under such dense artillery fire. The combined Legion starships were destroyed one after another. However, they also launched a fierce attack on the Klein people's base. During this process, Gu Qijue had successfully approached a lightning chain generator. Gu Qijue actually didn't want to destroy such a powerful weapon, but there was no other way. He couldn't seize this weapon for the time being, so he could only destroy it first and find a way to restore it later. Anyway, 5 such weapons were enough for the infinite engine to reverse engineer. Whoosh! The blood spear in Gu Qijue's hand suddenly struck towards the lightning chain generator. A Klein person holding a warhammer instantly appeared. He slammed his warhammer towards Gu Qijue's blood spear, blocking him from destroying the lightning chain generator. 339, strategic maneuvering, break through the Port Verbena base. Clang, a deafening clang of metal like a great bell reverberating, suddenly rang out. Gu Qijue's strength was terrifying. The Klein people's expert he faced was also extraordinary. After their sudden clash, Gu Qijue stood proudly in midair, unmoving. Difer's body, however, was blasted to the ground, crushing the hard rock into dust. Gu Qijue glanced at Difer, then without hesitation, continued his assault. Difer's strength was infinitely close to D-rank cosmic level. In many battlefields of the Star Cluster Alliance, he would already be considered an expert. However, he was only D-rank cosmic level, not truly D-rank universe level expert. Even if he were a true D-rank universe level expert, Gu Qijue still had his 3rd and 4th combat forms. At this moment, Gu Qijue had not entered his 3rd combat form. He was still fighting Difer in his 2nd combat form. Boom! Gu Qijue's blood spear thrust out, and vast, immense energy accompanied by his blood spear crushed towards Difer. Difer dared not be careless, swinging his warhammer in a full circle and smashing it out. Gu Qijue and Difer began an extremely fierce offense and defense. Ding ding dang dang, boom, 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 around the two of them. Earth-shattering energy storms continuously exploded. Everyone on the battlefield, as well as many people on the Gu Star Cluster communication channel, noticed the battle situation here. They saw very clearly that Difer was no match for Gu Qijue. After the battle began, Difer was constantly being battered and suppressed by Gu Qijue. Either he was blasted flying like a kite with a broken string, or he was smashed into the rocks below like playing whack-a-mole. Had it been anyone else, Gu Qijue would have killed them long ago. Difer, however, was different. Not only was he strong, but he was also tough-skinned and extremely resilient. Gu Qijue and Difer, one was a strong attacker, the other was durable. This led to Gu Qijue constantly beating Difer, but without completely killing him. Gu Qijue had already acknowledged Difer's vitality, so he wasn't going to waste any more time with Difer. After blasting Difer away again, he directly attacked the lightning chain generator. While he couldn't kill Difer in a short time, destroying the lightning chain generator was very easy for him. Boom! He suddenly hurled the blood spear in his hand. The blood spear streaked across the sky, turning into a long rainbow that rapidly approached the lightning chain generator. Crack! Rumble! The lightning chain generator instantly raised an energy shield, but this energy shield was easily and effortlessly destroyed by Gu Qijue. This lightning chain generator was also completely destroyed by the blood spear he had suddenly hurled. When Difer saw the lightning chain generator, he was ordered to guard destroyed. His eyes instantly split with rage and he fled directly. That's right, this guy just fled. Although he was tough and resilient, he wasn't unkillable. His vitality was so tenacious, partly because of his extremely strong physique, and partly because of his terrifying self-healing ability. But in the previous battle, his consumption was very high. If he stayed here, he couldn't stop Gu Qijue from destroying the lightning chain generator, and he might even be killed by Gu Qijue. Given this, of course, the best plan out of the 36 stratagems was to flee. After Difer fled, no one could stop Gu Qijue's actions. Whoosh! He raised his hand and waved, and another blood spear fiercely shot towards a lightning chain generator not far away. Rumble! This lightning chain generator was hit in its core by Gu Qijue, directly resulting in an extremely terrifying explosion. Not only was this lightning chain generator blown to pieces, but a large number of surrounding Klein people warriors and other facilities were also blasted into fragments. Although he had completely destroyed one lightning chain generator, Gu Qijue still secretly felt it was a pity. As long as it wasn't completely destroyed, there was a possibility of repair. These weapons, once the infinite engine had analyzed them, could be integrated into the mechanical golden lions. making future mechanical golden lions capable of both offense and defense, possessing stronger combat capabilities. However, the battle was not over. After destroying the second lightning chain generator, Gu Qijue did not linger and immediately struck again. Boom, 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 for the subsequent lightning chain generators. He did not destroy the weapon's main body, but rather its base. The lightning chain generators that were originally operating normally quickly lost their effectiveness. Without these 5 lightning chain generators, the remaining defensive weapons posed no great threat to the mechanical golden lions. Numerous mechanical golden lions, along with other Joint Legion combat units, rapidly entered the ground battlefield at this time. The Klein people's defensive facilities at Fubei Port Base were continuously destroyed. This change threw the frontline battlefield into chaos. On the main battlefield, the Klein people's combat units had been trying to fall back to defend. But unfortunately, the Star Cluster Alliance would not let such a good opportunity slip by. Upon learning that Fubei Port Base was in trouble, the Star Cluster Alliance's combat units all went all out in their attack. The Klein people at Fubei Port Base were suddenly caught between 2 fires. Facing this situation, Commander Ankh decisively made another decision. 5 minutes to take all usable supplies with you. Destroy all supplies that cannot be taken. All high-ranking officials will cover the rear with me, everyone else. Break through towards Winter Base. Winter Base will send elite combat units to meet us. The Klein people did not place much importance on territory. If territory was lost, they could always fight back later with sufficient preparation. If their living forces were gone, then they would have nothing. In the past, everyone covering the rear would have been fine. After all, they were the strongest at Fubei Port Base. But this time, facing a fierce individual like Gu Qijue, they truly did not want to cover the rear. Especially Difer, who had just been severely beaten by Gu Qijue not long ago, now only wanted to escape. If he had known Ankh wanted them to cover the rear, Difer wouldn't have fled back to the base just now, he would have completely escaped directly. Under Ankh's arrangements, many of the Klein people's starships began to change. Many Klein people began to frantically break through in the direction of Winter Base. Several D-rank cosmic level and hundreds of E-rank cosmic level peak Klein people suddenly ascended into the sky, beginning to cover the rear for everyone. This time, Gu Qijue only wanted to eliminate the Klein people at Fubei Port Base and destroy Fubei Port Base. When these Klein people began to flee frantically, he did not order a frantic pursuit. He didn't do so, but the Star Cluster Alliance wouldn't miss the opportunity to beat a drowning dog. As the Klein people continued to break through and escape, Gu Qijue also led the Joint Legion to plunder the Klein people's Fubei Port Base. 340. The mission to garrison Fubei Port, head of state Gu Qijue. The moment Commander Gu Qijue occupied Fubei Port Base, he knew he had stumbled upon a treasure. The location of Fubei Port Base was actually an energy node. In the universe, there is a large amount of free-floating energy. This energy is relatively sparse and usually requires various devices to collect it before it can be utilized. This process is somewhat similar to photovoltaic power generation. Although sunlight is free, the cost of photovoltaic equipment is very high, and the energy conversion efficiency is relatively low. Without extremely advanced technology, this task cannot be accomplished, and it is very easy to lose money. However, there are also some special spatial points in the universe. One type of special spatial point is the energy node. Free-floating energy from all directions continuously converges toward this spatial node. The formation of these energy nodes is generally caused by spatial interference from higher dimensions. This is easy to understand. If a 2-dimensional universe exists, and a creature from a 3-dimensional universe presses down on this 2-dimensional plane, then some objects on the 2-dimensional plane would clearly converge toward the depression. The energy node at Fubei Port Base was probably formed in a similar way. However, even Gu Qijue didn't know what 4-dimensional space or other higher-dimensional spaces were like. His ignorance of these matters didn't hinder him. He only needed to occupy Fubei Port Base. It was a very easy matter for him to occupy Fubei Port Base. Neither the Hu Star Cluster nor the other Star Cluster-level civilizations in the Star Cluster Alliance would typically occupy the Klein people's bases. They had indeed driven the Klein people away for now, but there was no guarantee the Klein people wouldn't return someday. If the Klein people did return, and they had occupied the Klein people's base, what would they do? The Hu Star Cluster civilization and the other members of the Star Cluster Alliance could all figure this out. But Fubei Port Base was a relatively important stronghold. having finally driven the Klein people away. It seemed inappropriate not to occupy the location. This put the high-level officials of the Hu star cluster in a difficult position. They wanted to propose that the Star Cluster Alliance's joint forces occupy this important stronghold. However, after the battle in this theater ended, the Star Cluster Alliance's joint forces began to withdraw from the Fubei Port battlefield one after another. Everyone's meaning was, of course, crystal clear, since Fubei Port base was within the Hu Star Cluster star domain. Only the Hu Star Cluster itself could be assigned to garrison it. The Hu Star Cluster's combat units naturally knew that they might be dispatched to garrison Fubei Port base, an extremely dangerous location. Neither the regular combat units nor the elite combat units wanted to take on this hot potato. If the Klein people launched a surprise counterattack, Fubei Port base would inevitably bear the brunt and be the first target of the Klein people's attack. At a time when no one wanted to stay and garrison Fubei Port base, something happened that neither the Hu Star Cluster nor the Star Cluster Alliance had anticipated. Commander Gu Qijue of the Blackstone Legion actually voluntarily requested to be stationed at Fubei Port base. The head of state of the Hu Star Cluster civilization was also a female C-rank powerhouse named Gu Qijue. Unlike an iron lady like Salisbury, Gu Qijue was a powerful woman whose combat ability was off the charts, but whose governing ability was lacking. Salisbury was as calm as a machine, and her decisions often involved massive schemes. Gu Qijue was different, although she possessed both beauty and fighting strength. Her intelligence score was far from outstanding. This led to Gu Qijue being somewhat stunned when she heard Gu Qijue volunteer to garrison Fubei Port base. After all, in the interstellar conquest era, the spirit of selflessness and dedication to others was almost never seen. Life forms possessing such noble morality were easily devoured until nothing but bones remained. Gu Qijue didn't know why Gu Qijue volunteered to garrison Fubei Port base, so she prepared to ask him. Gu Qijue didn't expect the head of state of the Hu Star Cluster to be so approachable. He had only just arrived at the Hu Star Cluster and fought one battle, yet she was already contacting him. As the head of state of a Star Cluster-level civilization, she had many matters to handle. Normally, she wouldn't have time to communicate with an external commander like Gu Qijue. After President Gu Qijue sent a communication invitation, Gu Qijue chose to accept. Gu Qijue then saw a woman who was breathtakingly beautiful and had an explosively good figure. Hua Linglong was already like a lotus emerging from clear water, naturally beautiful without embellishment. President Gu Qijue was even more incomparably stunning. It was absolutely true that the Hu Star Cluster produced beautiful women. After Gu Qijue saw Gu Qijue, she asked straightforwardly, "Commander Gu Qijue, why do you voluntarily want to garrison Fubei Port base?" Gu Qijue didn't hesitate and stated truthfully, "Because it is a decent energy node." Gu Qijue was stunned. Just because of that, Fubei Port base had always been territory belonging to the Hu Star Cluster. Gu Qijue naturally knew that the location was an energy node. However, energy nodes are categorized by quality. The energy convergence rate of that energy node was only around 20%, so the effect wasn't very good. The energy convergence rate of energy nodes is divided into 5 tiers. Fubei Port base's energy convergence rate falls within the 20 to 40% range, belonging to the second tier. To be precise, it was at the bottom of the second tier. Gu Qijue truly couldn't imagine that Gu Qijue wanted to garrison Fubei Port base for such a reason. After Gu Qijue explained the reason, Gu Qijue pondered for a moment and said, "You have rendered considerable service to the Hu Star Cluster this time. If you wish to station your legion in a place that possesses an energy node, the Hu Star Cluster can offer you a better option." Although Gu Qijue was not as intelligent as Salisbury, she could still ensure rewards and punishments were clearly defined. Gu Qijue had indeed rendered service to the Hu Star Cluster civilization, and garrisoning Fubei Port base was clearly a thankless task. It would undoubtedly be inappropriate to assign him to guard Fubei Port base after he had rendered service. Gu Qijue knew Gu Qijue meant well, but he absolutely had to stay at Fubei Port base. He shook his head and said, "Thank you for your kindness, Your Excellency, the head of state. Currently, Fubei Port base is more suitable for the Blackstone Legion. If Your Excellency, the head of state agrees, I will lead the Blackstone Legion to garrison Fubei Port base." Fubei Port base possessed enormous potential that many others had not discovered. This time, Gu Qijue was determined to secure the opportunity to be stationed at Fubei Port base. No one was competing with Gu Qijue for this arduous mission. Seeing his resolute attitude, President Gu Qijue could only agree. In that case, Fubei Port Base will temporarily be managed and defended by Commander Gu Qijue. 341, Lionheart, a B-class spaceship. The news that Gu Qijue was stationed at Fubei Port Base quickly spread. As soon as the news broke, many people breathed a sigh of relief, while others began to gloat. The communication channels of the Hu Star Cluster and the Star Cluster Alliance instantly became lively. Many people began to voice their opinions. Why was Commander Gu Qijue assigned to guard Fubei Port Base? The Hu Star Cluster doesn't know how to use talent. That's wrong. With great power comes great responsibility. Only Commander Gu Qijue is capable of guarding Fubei Port Base. It's not that simple. The world bustles for profit, and the world rushes for gain. There must be something suspicious going on. Gu Qijue saw the public discussion this time, because he had nothing to do while the mechanical Golden Lions and the Blackstone Legion were cleaning up the battlefield. So he logged into the Star Cluster Alliance's communication channel to check the recent trends. Currently, on the Star Cluster Alliance's communication channel, he had clearly become a hot topic. If he were to lose several tons to star in a role, that topic could probably be hyped up for a month or so. However, Gu Qijue had no intention of entering the Star Cluster Alliance entertainment industry. If the Star Cluster Alliance lost this war against the Klein people, then no matter what circle they were in, they would all end up as funeral wreaths. On the communication channel, most people's comments were shallow, or rather very stupid and naive. Of course, some people's comments were relatively accurate. Fubei Port Base was just a mediocre energy node, but occupying this place offered 4 advantages. First, it could serve as a springboard for the Blackstone Legion and the Divine Light Legion to enter the battlefield and participate in the fighting. Otherwise, they would always have to launch attacks from Blackstone Base. Blackstone Base was established on ruins, and the Klein people had not left any resources nearby. That place was suitable for long-term development and expansion, but it was difficult to achieve anything in the short term. Second, there was a Protoss ruins nearby. Once he sent the outsiders away and completely controlled Fubei Port Base, he could open this Protoss ruins. Although the ruins left by the Golden Lion King didn't always make him rich, they were still worth exploring. Exploring Protoss ruins seemed like repetitive and tedious work, but it still needed to be done. The reasoning was simple. A person couldn't say they ate for a whole year last year and therefore didn't need to eat all year this year. Therefore, not only the Protoss ruins near Fubei Port Base, but also the ruins left by the Golden Lion King and other locations still needed to be explored. Third, the Infinite Engine could modify the energy nodes. The energy node at Fubei Port Base was mediocre. Just so. However, after being modified by the Infinite Engine, the efficiency of this energy node in gathering energy could be greatly improved. Fourth, being stationed at Fubei Port Base would earn him more friendship from the Hu Star Cluster civilization. This matter was considered a significant help to the Hu Star Cluster civilization. Many more benefits like this could be listed. If it weren't for these reasons, Gu Qijue wouldn't have targeted Fubei Port Base in his first battle after leaving the Vermilion Bird Star Cluster. This battle, even overtly, was killing 4 birds with 1 stone, and the unseen benefits were even greater. Gu Qijue knew about the many benefits of Fubei Port Base, but Han Yiming, Hua Linglong, and others could only see the danger. Han Yiming did not choose to be stationed at Fubei Port Base. No matter what Gu Qijue wanted to do at Fubei Port Base, he advised against Gu Qijue staying there. Otherwise, if the Klein people returned, everything he did at Fubei Port Base would just benefit others. Han Yiming was rational, and from his perspective, his decision was not wrong. Unfortunately, there was a huge information gap between him and Gu Qijue, so his decision this time was not truly correct. For Gu Qijue, it was also a good thing that Han Yiming returned to Blackstone Base to take charge. Han Yiming's character was very serious and steady. Such a person was best suited for construction and logistics. He could be completely at ease handing over the development and construction of Blackstone Base to Han Yiming. As for the people of the Moonlight Legion, there was still a trust issue with him. Otherwise, they should have stayed instead of returning to Moonlight Base. Their choice to return to Moonlight Base was, of course, a good thing for Gu Qijue. Now, the entire Fubei Port Base was under his control. Once people's focus gradually shifted away from Fubei Port Base, he could open the nearby Protoss ruins. If the Star Cluster Alliance and the Klein people started fighting everywhere, there would be no shortage of hot topics. When Fubei Port Base was mostly repaired, The various parties in the Star Cluster Alliance were no longer paying so much attention to it. After Gu Qijue was stationed at Fubei Port Base, he kept a very low profile and was not in a hurry to cause trouble. With no gossip to consume, the onlookers could only shift their attention. While letting the Blackstone Legion continue to repair Fubei Port Base, he also led the Golden Lion King warriors toward the Protos ruins. The Protos ruins were located in a relatively stable subspace. The commotion caused by opening the Protos ruins was somewhat significant. However, during this period, Fubei Port Base was peaceful and uneventful, so all parties were not highly focused on it. The commotion Gu Qijue caused by opening this Protos ruins was not detected by the Hu star cluster. After opening the Protos ruins hidden in the subspace, Gu Qijue wasted no time, immediately leading the Bone Prison Hound and the mechanical Golden Lions inside. Since obtaining the positioning teleportation star chart, he had entered a large number of Protos ruins. But Gu Qijue was certain that this Protos ruins was likely the most unique Protos ruins, because there were no buildings inside this Protos ruins, only an extremely massive warship. Gu Qijue immediately said to the Infinite Engine, "Scan and analyze this warship." Starting scan and analysis of the target warship. Please wait. Scan and analysis complete. This warship is the B-rank Lionheart King warship. When he saw this prompt, Gu Qijue's heart pounded fiercely. A B-rank cosmic-level warship was enough to serve as the foundation for a star cluster-level civilization. Any power wanting to become a star cluster-level civilization needed a large number of D-rank cosmic-level and C-rank cosmic-level experts. Furthermore, they needed a B-rank cosmic-level trump card. This trump card could be an immortal B-rank cosmic-level old ancestor, or other B-rank cosmic-level combat power. Only by possessing B-rank cosmic-level combat power could they be considered a true star cluster-level civilization. Most star cluster-level civilizations in the Star Cluster Alliance had such a trump card. Even the destroyed Tianyuan Star Cluster civilization originally had a B-rank cosmic-level founding ancestor overseeing it. It was just a pity that over the long years, this B-rank cosmic-level founding ancestor perished. Therefore, when the Tianyuan Star Cluster civilization was destroyed, they could not produce this trump card. Such a trump card also served the purpose of nuclear deterrence and nuclear blackmail. 342, War Tree, Mechanical Silver Wolf King. This B-rank cosmic-level Lionheart King starship was extremely helpful to Gu Qijue. However, after carefully reading the Infinite Engine's analysis report, Gu Qijue felt a bit of a headache. This thing was actually only a semi-finished product. This B-rank cosmic-level starship had an estimated completion rate of about 80%. At first glance, it appeared complete, but it lacked some modules, preventing it from flying. It could only be used as a fixed turret. This result caused Gu Qijue some slight regret, but obtaining a B-rank cosmic-level weapon was still a cause for celebration. If the Klein people ever genuinely launched a counterattack, he would let them taste the power of a B-rank cosmic-level naval cannon. If anyone else had obtained this starship, they might truly only be able to use it as a fixed turret. Gu Qijue was different. He could use the Infinite Engine to slowly repair this starship. As long as the Klein people didn't counterattack the Fubei port base, he wouldn't even need to use this Lionheart King starship. Afterward, Gu Qijue took a look around the starship. This starship was, frankly, excellent. The only flaw was that the starship only had an 80% completion rate. He needed to find a way to acquire the remaining modules himself. During the final period of the Golden Lion King's reign, it seemed that some very serious sudden events occurred. It was like the final years of the first emperor's life, where he started several major projects but failed to complete them entirely. Not only did the Golden Lion King fail to complete major projects, but even this B-rank cosmic-level warship was only a semi-finished product. He didn't know what exactly happened back then. Gu Qijue carefully inspected the Lionheart King starship, and then he completely relaxed. This B-rank cosmic-level starship only lacked modules in the power system and control system. The energy system, weapon system, defense system, and others were all complete. Therefore, even with only 80% completion, it could still be utilized. This exploration of the Protos ruins was smoother than ever before. This place only contained one B-rank cosmic-level starship, making it easy to see everything. This B-rank cosmic-level starship was stored within the Infinite Engine's spatial warehouse. After Gu Qijue took the Lionheart King starship away, this space containing the Protos ruins gradually began to collapse. For the period that followed, The Fubei port base remained calm and peaceful. This came as a surprise to the Gu star cluster and the rest of the Star Cluster Alliance members. The fact that the Klein people didn't counterattack the Fubei port base was, of course, great news for Gu Qijue. However, for the Gu Star Cluster civilization and the Star Cluster Alliance, this was not the case. If they forgo small gains, they must be planning something big. In previous battles between the Star Cluster Alliance and the Klein people destroyed the Azure Star Cluster civilization after suffering minor losses. After that, the Klein people, having also suffered minor losses, launched a sneak attack on the Silver Flame Star Cluster civilization. The Klein people's failure to counterattack the Fubei port base this time strongly suggested they were preparing a major move. These actions taken by the Klein people were temporarily irrelevant to Gu Qijue. After a period of development, the Blackstone Legion had completely established a firm foothold at the Fubei port base. The Infinite Engine was also subtly modifying the Fubei port base. After realizing the location was very safe, Han Yiming would occasionally visit the Fubei port base. Not only him, but Hua Linglong's appearances at the Fubei port base also increased. Hua Linglong was not skilled at commanding operations, but her personal combat strength was decent. Furthermore, Hua Linglong's most formidable domain was demonic plant cultivation. Demonic plants are magical plants that have undergone demonization. These demonic plants come in many varieties and have diverse functions. Hua Linglong brought a gift for Gu Qijue on this visit. Your Excellency Gu Qijue, I present you with this E-rank energy tree. The gift Hua Linglong brought for Gu Qijue was a small sapling. Gu Qijue was not very knowledgeable about this kind of demonic plant. Seeing the sapling, he asked curiously, "What is the function of this sapling?" Hua Linglong replied, "It primarily has 3 functions. The first function is refining spring water of life. Spring water of life is a general-purpose healing agent that has excellent curative effects on all life forms at or below the E-rank cosmic level. The second function is cultivating energy fruits. These E-rank energy fruits contain extremely pure energy, making them even more effective than the most premium E-rank energy stones. The third function is that it can become a war treant. However, whether or not to cultivate it into a war treant depends on its specific acquired growth conditions." After Hua Linglong finished speaking, Gu Qijue knew that the gift she had given him was quite valuable. This item was an extremely practical and versatile treasure. Gu Qijue possessed many good things. Having accepted Hua Linglong's gift, he prepared to give her a special return gift. He immediately asked, "Commander Hua Linglong, what kind of animal do you like?" Hua Linglong was stunned, wondering why Gu Qijue suddenly asked that. However, Hua Linglong thought about it and replied, "I don't seem to have a particularly favorite animal." Since she said that, Gu Qijue had to make the decision himself. The Infinite Engine had already performed reverse engineering on the mechanical golden lions. The current Infinite Engine was capable of manufacturing mechanical golden lions, although the cost was extremely high. This time, Gu Qijue did not plan to manufacture a mechanical golden lion for Hua Linglong. Instead, he prepared to manufacture a mechanical silver wolf king to give her. After the Infinite Engine was upgraded, the speed of manufacturing items had become very fast. Of course, increasing efficiency came at a cost, significantly higher energy consumption. Fortunately, Gu Qijue only needed to manufacture 1 mechanical silver wolf king, so there was no need to worry too much about the cost. He issued an instruction to the Infinite Engine using his mind. Manufacture a mechanical silver wolf king at the E-rank peak. Manufacturing of E-rank mechanical silver wolf king initiated. Should it be manufactured as an intelligent machine or a mechanical lifeform? An intelligent machine is simply a machine possessing extremely high intelligence. As for mechanical lifeforms, they are true lifeforms in mechanical form. The latter has greater potential and utility than the former, and the manufacturing cost for the latter is also higher. Since he only needed to manufacture 1 unit, Gu Qijue was quite generous. Manufacture a mechanical lifeform. As soon as he finished speaking, the Infinite Engine immediately started manufacturing. E-rank mechanical lifeform, mechanical silver wolf king. Currently in production. Please wait. In the Infinite Engine's spatial warehouse, large amounts of materials rapidly disappeared. These raw materials had generally undergone multiple rounds of synthesis and reinforcement, becoming advanced materials before being used in production. During this process, a large quantity of energy stones was also rapidly consumed. Although the cost was not low, The mechanical silver wolf king, manufactured this time, was definitely worth the price. Once the mechanical silver wolf king was finished manufacturing, Gu Qijue retrieved the item from the Infinite Engine's spatial warehouse. 343. The situation is excellent. I've been promoted from a peer to logistics supervisor. Hua Linglong had seen Gu Qijue's mechanical golden lions and knew what kind of combat power these mechanical golden lions possessed on the battlefield. But the mechanical silver wolf king that Gu Qijue brought out this time was the first she had ever seen. The moment she saw the mechanical silver wolf king, Hua Linglong became very interested in it. This mechanical silver wolf king had an excellent appearance and looked mighty and extraordinary. Hua Linglong immediately asked, "Is this Commander Gu's secret unit?" Gu Qijue shook his head. "No, this mechanical life form is called the mechanical silver wolf king. Its combat power is comparable to the mechanical golden lions. However, compared to the mechanical golden lions, it is better suited for pursuit or escape. This mechanical silver wolf king is a gift for you. If the golden lion king warriors were sharp knives and blades, then the mechanical silver wolf king was an interstellar mount that could be used to hunt prey or to escape. However, the mechanical silver wolf king's legion combat capability was inferior to that of the golden lion king warriors. Therefore, Gu Qijue had no intention of forming the mechanical silver wolf kings into a legion for combat. He planned to use the mechanical silver wolf king as one of the Infinite Empire's national gifts, giving it to people who could benefit him and the Infinite Empire. Hua Linglong covered her mouth in surprise at this moment. She truly hadn't expected Gu Qijue to be willing to give her such a precious gift. After a brief hesitation, she still did not refuse Gu Qijue's gift. Instead, she opened her mouth and thanked him. "Thank you." Gu Qijue nodded slightly, then said, "If you need the mechanical silver wolf king to help you complete some specialized tasks later, I can upgrade and modify it, because the mechanical silver wolf king would be given to many people in the future." So Gu Qijue came up with an idea. Every mechanical silver wolf king could be custom upgraded for the recipient. This way, every mechanical silver wolf king he gave out would be unique in both appearance and function. This time, however, Hua Linglong refused. "No need, no need. That would be too much trouble." Gu Qijue said, "This is still very necessary. You don't need to rush. You can go back and think about it carefully. It can be upgraded and modified once, from appearance to function." Hua Linglong naturally refused again, but how could she refuse Gu Qijue? In the end, she could only happily accept the gift. Hua Linglong was not in a hurry to leave. Instead, she stayed to continue talking with Gu Qijue. "Lord Gu Qijue, what are your plans next?" Gu Qijue did not conceal too much, telling Hua Linglong the things that he could disclose. The Blackstone Legion's Blackstone base in the Huanlin Star Cluster will continue to be built and upgraded. Afterward, the Blackstone Legion will massively recruit and train warriors at the Blackstone base. As for the Fubei Port base, I will use this place as the Blackstone Legion's forward position. I will be able to participate in the battles near the Fubei Port base. The mighty dragon does not crush the local snake, and furthermore, the Infinite Empire and the Blackstone Legion are not mighty dragons in front of the Gu Star Cluster civilization. Now that they have arrived on the territory of the Gu Star Cluster civilization, maintaining friendship with the Gu Star Cluster civilization is essential. The Gu Star Cluster civilization was naturally also very willing to become friends with Gu Qijue. Otherwise, they would not have so readily handed over the Fubei Port base entirely to him without even sending a military supervisor. Afterward, they also allowed Hua Linglong and others to frequently interact with Gu Qijue. Everything the Gu Star Cluster did was an act of goodwill toward Gu Qijue. After Gu Qijue sensed the Gu Star Cluster's goodwill, he also responded in a friendly manner. In this turbulent era filled with the smoke of war, the relationship between the two sides was inherently one where cooperation benefited both, and separation harmed both. After talking with Hua Linglong for a long time, Gu Qijue saw her off. Subsequently, Tian Li's holographic projection appeared in his office. His real focus at the moment was still the Infinite Empire located within the Crystal Clan universe remnant. No matter when, the Infinite Empire was his base of operations. Tian Li was currently the chief planner for the Infinite Empire's development strategy. After Tian Li's holographic projection appeared, he bowed respectfully to Gu Qijue and said, "Your Excellency, the head of state, do you have any instructions?" The reason he appeared here was that Gu Qijue had summoned him. After Tian Li appeared, Gu Qijue casually asked, "How is the Infinite Empire developing now?" Hearing this, Tian Li recounted everything in detail. The development of the Infinite Empire mainly involves the following points. First, the citizens and combat units of the Infinite Empire have all adapted to the new environment. Both the various combat units and the citizens of the Infinite Empire are steadily improving. Second, the Infinite Empire's resources have been completely tallied and integrated. All resources will subsequently be used to create the greatest value. Third, the F-rank universe-level experts of the Infinite Empire are about to usher in an explosive era. The vast majority of peak super god rank experts will successively become F-rank universe-level experts. At that time, the Infinite Empire, this time, Tian Li reported more than 30 items to Gu Qijue in one breath. Gu Qijue had always placed great trust in his abilities. Judging from his report this time, he clearly had not disappointed Gu Qijue. Gu Qijue had tasked him with taking the lead in the Crystal Clan Universe Remnant, and he had delivered a satisfactory report card to Gu Qijue. Gu Qijue pondered for a moment and continued speaking to Tian Li. Maintain this development trend going forward. If you have any problems or needs, just tell me. Upon hearing this, Tian Li bowed. As you command, Your Excellency, the head of state. After speaking, his holographic projection also disappeared. There were still many talented people within the Infinite Empire. People like Gu Qijue, Jai Tianyu, and Zai Ling all had the ability to manage affairs independently. However, during the Infinite Empire's current rapid growth phase, it was better to have Jai Tianyu and the others assist Tian Li. After ending communication with Tian Li, Gu Qijue communicated with Han Yiming. Han Yiming and Gu Qijue were initially of the same rank. Logically, the two should have been equals. Han Yiming was not an ordinary person, he was also an elite of his generation. Unfortunately, he was slightly inferior to Gu Qijue in many aspects, and thus he became Gu Qijue's logistics supervisor. Gu Qijue quickly saw the holographic projection of his logistics supervisor. Seeing Han Yiming, Gu Qijue smiled and asked, "How are the Black Stone base and the Shengguang base developing?" If he had a choice, Han Yiming wouldn't want to handle logistics at all, but he had no choice now. Staying in the rear to manage logistics development was his best option. Han Yiming sighed and said, "Following Brother Gu's request, we have already made contact with all the remnants of the Huenlin star cluster. Some of the remnants of the Huenlin star cluster have already relocated near the Black Stone base and the Shengguang base. 344, Galen star has fallen, transport captain. Gu Qijue's 3 moves in the Huenlin star cluster were quite well executed, whether it was the Crystal Clan Universe Remnant, the Black Stone base, or the Fubei Port base, all developed very well. Managing the development of a force essentially involves 3 things. The first is to make the pie bigger, to have more and more powerful experts in a force, and to control more and more resources. The second is to divide the pie fairly. In 8 words, it means clear rewards and punishments, fair and just. The third is to guard the pie. This requires the Infinite Empire, while growing and expanding, to possess corresponding powerful military strength. Gu Qijue is no longer the inexperienced young man who first arrived at Emperor Star. He is now adept at all these matters. It is said that governing a great nation is like cooking a small fish. Gu Qijue's previous 3 moves went very smoothly, but perhaps because he was too smooth, the Klein people decided to trip him up. Instead of counterattacking the Fubei Port base, the Klein people attacked Jailan Star. After the Klein people occupy a place, they try to take away all valuable items. Therefore, places they have occupied often have no value for a second occupation. This time, Jailan Star, which the Klein people captured, was a resource planet occupied for the first time. Jailan Star is near the Fubei Port base, which means the Fubei Port base also faces the threat of the Klein people. The Huyu Star Cluster Combat Department was in chaos at this moment. Although the Star Cluster civilization and the Klein people had been fighting for a long time, many members of the Star Cluster Alliance were still not accustomed to the Klein people's attack methods. When the Star Cluster Alliance members clash, they choose an entry point, then dispatch large armies to continuously enter the battlefield. The Klein people's attack method is unpredictable and elusive. They might suddenly appear in a place and then launch a fierce attack. 5 minutes after Jailan Star was attacked, its entire defense system completely collapsed. At this moment, everyone in the Huyu Star Cluster Combat Department and the Huyu Star Cluster Chief Executive Hall were urgently discussing this matter. While they were holding an emergency combat meeting, Gu Qijue had already arrived at the edge of the battlefield with his mechanical golden lions. Others turned pale at the mention of the Klein people, but since the start of the conflict, The Klein people had served as Gu Qijue's supply captain multiple times. So, upon seeing the Klein people, Gu Qijue did not show any expression of deep hatred. Arriving at the edge of the battlefield, Gu Qijue waved his hand, and numerous mechanical golden lions were stored in the Infinite Engine's spatial warehouse. He planned to infiltrate Jialan Star to see if there was an opportunity to exploit. Everyone else was trying to get away from Jialan Star at this time. Gu Qijue, however, was heaven-defying. He found an opportunity and directly infiltrated Jialan Star. There was no obvious resistance left throughout Jialan Star. Looking around, there were corpses of fallen Hu Star Cluster soldiers everywhere. Large numbers of captives were being rounded up by the Klein people at this time. Subsequently, the Klein people's resource collection devices and resource collection robots were all dispatched. Various resources on Jialan Star were also collected by the Klein people in a very short time. Many prisoners of war were sent into biomodification chambers for biological modification. They would become second-generation Klein people or other monsters. The Klein people's combat strategy also consisted of 3 main axes. The first axe, suddenly appear somewhere and launch a fierce attack. The second axe, collect resources from the area and modify the prisoners of war. The third axe, build a base to accelerate the resource collection rate. Collect all resources from the area, then decisively leave. Therefore, any resource-rich place could be attacked by the Klein people. Conversely, resource-poor areas held no value for the Klein people and would not be attacked. Gu Qijue walked around Jialan Star and then found the place where the Klein people were building their base. Gu Qijue was also very familiar with the Klein people's bases. Among commanders of the same rank in the Star Cluster Alliance, perhaps no one understood the Klein people's bases better than him. The Klein people's bases also consisted of 3 parts: the command hall, the barracks, and the storage area. All Klein people commanders were in the command hall. Most soldiers were resting in various barracks. The resources they had currently collected and the weapons and equipment they might need later were placed in the storage area. Gu Qijue had always gone to the storage area to make a fortune before, then acted according to the situation. This time, however, he had a bold idea. He planned to infiltrate the command hall and carry out a decapitation strike. Once the Klein people's command system was paralyzed, the other Klein people would only be able to fight individually, unable to receive effective command. As long as he could decapitate the Klein people's commanders, he could unexpectedly defeat these Klein people. Because the Klein people's base was not yet fully constructed, it became very easy for Gu Qijue to infiltrate the Klein people's semi-finished base. After successfully arriving at the empty command hall, Gu Qijue found a place to hide. At the same time, he communicated with the Infinite Engine. Produce some bombs for me that can kill ordinary D-rank universe-level experts upon detonation. Micro-quantum bombs are being produced. Please wait. The Infinite Engine was producing a weapon called micro-quantum bombs for Gu Qijue this time. These weapons were only as large as a small chocolate square. However, these micro-quantum bombs had a stacking effect. 100 micro-quantum bombs have been produced. Please check. Gu Qijue quickly received these micro-quantum bombs and their detonators. He immediately installed micro-quantum bombs in the command hall and various other locations. Click. A micro-quantum bomb was installed on the wall. Then, this micro-quantum bomb slowly permeated into the wall, completely hidden. The micro-quantum bombs installed elsewhere were also like this. Unless the Klein people had special devices to inspect micro-quantum bombs, it would be difficult for them to discover these deadly weapons. After Gu Qijue found that everything was going very smoothly, he immediately continued to issue instructions to the Infinite Engine. Produce more micro-quantum bombs. He planned to completely blow up the entire Klein people's base. Once the Klein people's command system was paralyzed, he would lead his mechanical golden lions to sweep across the area. This way, the crisis on Jialan Star could be resolved. The Klein people and their commanders were busy deploying resource collection devices everywhere. This resulted in Gu Qijue installing 800 micro-quantum bombs in the Klein people's semi-finished base without being discovered. Everything was going too smoothly. Gu Qijue immediately went to their storage area without being polite to the Klein people. 345, destroy the command system, current peak performance. The storage area was different from other places. Not only did it have guards, but there were also access restrictions. However, a flash of blood-red light appeared, and the 2 guards closest to Gu Qijue were silently eliminated by him. He then used the Golden Lion King warriors to perform a transformation disguise. Before long, all the guards in this area became subordinates of Gu Qijue. Arriving in front of the alloy-sealed door, Gu Qijue ordered the infinite engine, crack the password. Access password cracking in progress, cracking successful, access granted. Click, a crisp sound rang out, and the alloy-sealed door indeed opened at that moment. Gu Qijue then entered the storage area and saw the weapons and equipment stored there by the Klein people. These Klein people truly lived up to their reputation as his chief logistics officer, although this place did not have the energy stones that Gu Qijue desperately needed. It did have a large number of black technology weapons. Of course, he wouldn't be polite to the Klein people. He packed up all the weapons here and took them away. Neither the Gu Star Cluster nor the Star Cluster Alliance combat forces intended to let the Klein people establish a foothold here. The mighty combat forces of both sides, massive starship fleets, were already approaching Jialan Star. Everyone understood that a fierce battle was destined to occur in this location next. If nothing unexpected happened, this place would turn into a long-term battlefield like the Fubei Port battlefield. Last time, Gu Qijue used surprise attack tactics, catching the Klein people completely off guard. This time, the Klein people definitely had countermeasures, so even Gu Qijue could not repeat his old trick. 5 combat units from the Gu Star Cluster and 5 combat units from the Star Cluster Alliance all arrived at the periphery of Jialan Star. Their battles with the Klein people had already occurred many times. Therefore, after all parties arrived, they did not immediately launch an attack, but instead constructed defensive fortifications everywhere. The Klein people never passively waited to be attacked, so while initiating their offense, all parties also had to prepare for defense. Otherwise, if the Klein people charged out, they would be in for a terrible time. Long periods of analysis and research, coupled along with extensive combat experience, allowed the Gu Star Cluster and the Star Cluster Alliance to develop a set of effective combat methods for dealing with the Klein people. Although the Gu Star Cluster had many battlefields, President Gu Qijue of the Gu Star Cluster, along with other high-ranking officials, were still focusing their attention on this location. Seeing the Gu Star Cluster combat forces systematically carrying out combat preparations in outer space, both Gu Qijue and the other vice heads of state of the Gu Star Cluster were very satisfied. Vice head of state Yu Lingfeng watched for a moment and said with satisfaction, "Although the Gu Star Cluster's combat forces lack combat experience, their progress is very evident. We can have some expectations for the Moonlight Legion and the other legions in this battle." The Gu Star Cluster was skilled at economics but not at conquering territory. However, the threat posed by the Klein people rapidly improved their combat capabilities. President Gu Qijue also said, "The Moonlight Legion's recent performance was excellent. Since Commander Gu Qijue isn't leading this time, I wonder what their performance on the battlefield will be like." In the Chief Executive Hall, the other high-ranking Star Cluster officials were deep in thought. Everyone assumed that this battle would be like previous ones, with both sides engaging in offense and defense, leading to a stalemate. But what happened next would undoubtedly stun President Gu Qijue and the others. Not only them, but everyone monitoring this battlefield through the Star Cluster Alliance communication channels would be greatly astonished. Just as the two sides were about to start fighting, the Klein people's base suddenly exploded, a chain of explosions. Boom, 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 boom. Under the stunned gazes of countless people, the Klein people's recently constructed base began to explode continuously. Suddenly, the enormous flames from the explosion completely enveloped the entire base. Many of the Klein people's commanders, along with most of the middle and high-level officers, were all sent flying by the continuous explosions. The superimposed explosions generated by 800 miniature quantum bombs instantly annihilated all the Klein people inside the base. On Jialan Star, the Klein people's command system instantly collapsed. Roar! Immediately afterward, an earth-shattering dragon roar sounded. Following this, a young man appeared, holding a blood spear, with long, grayish-white hair cascading like a waterfall, wearing a black dragon mystic robe cloak, and dragging a long dragon tail behind him. Clatter! Large numbers of mechanical golden lions also appeared at this moment. It had always been the Klein people who appeared and disappeared unpredictably, catching others off guard. This time was impressive. The Klein people were caught completely unprepared by Gu Qijue's unpredictable appearance and attack. The collapse of the command system left the Klein people scattered everywhere, completely unsure whether to fight or retreat. Some Klein people fled, while others fell into chaotic fighting. Jialan Star, which had only recently been seized by the Klein people, was thus essentially recaptured by Gu Qijue. These sudden scenes caused everyone in outer space, and everyone monitoring the situation here, to be momentarily stunned, dumbfounded, and speechless with shock. The Hu star cluster communication channel instantly erupted. Commander Gu Qijue is too powerful? That's right, while others were still preparing for battle. He had already charged into the ground battlefield. He didn't just charge into the ground battlefield. He first destroyed the command system and then began slaughtering the enemy. A great reputation is never undeserved. Commander Gu Qijue truly lives up to his name. Too powerful? How did he do it? Everyone was extremely curious. How did the Klein people's base just suddenly explode? Although they didn't know the specific process, everyone admitted that Gu Qijue's actions this time were extraordinary. He and his 3,000 mechanical golden lions accomplished a combat mission that 10 large legions would struggle to complete. Although the Klein people were formidable, once they fell into chaos and fought individually, they were nowhere near as powerful. Contrary to everyone's expectations, Jailan Star did not turn into a second Fubei port battlefield. The Klein people occupying Jailan Star were almost completely annihilated in an extremely short period. This battle once again brought great fame to Gu Qijue within the Hu Star Cluster and the entire Star Cluster Alliance. This surprise attack became the peak of Gu Qijue's current command operations. He single-handedly secured the complete victory of a planetary-level battlefield. For a time, countless Star Cluster-level civilizations and the Silver Flame Super Star Cluster civilization once again extended olive branches to Gu Qijue. However, Gu Qijue had absolutely no intention of working for them. After leaving the Vermilion Bird Star Cluster, he planned to become a warlord himself. This time, Gu Qijue gained both fame and fortune. Not only did he establish a huge reputation, but he also obtained many good things from the Klein people's base, his exclusive chief logistics officer. As the combat forces of the Hu Star Cluster civilization began entering Jailan Star to clean up the battlefield, Gu Qijue withdrew. 346 Prepare for war, the Klein's revenge, the battle on Jailan Star from beginning to end. Everything was beyond everyone's expectations. No one could have imagined that the Klein people would suddenly attack Jailan Star. Nor could anyone have imagined that Jailan Star, after being occupied by the Klein people, would be recaptured in such an incredible way. Such a thing was a first on all battlefields between the Star Cluster Alliance and the Klein people. Gu Qijue, who created this war miracle, once again became the focus of attention in the Star Cluster Alliance. His name was mentioned in many places within the Hu Star Cluster, Vermilion Bird Star Cluster, and other Star Cluster-level civilizations. For Gu Qijue, this operation was something even he couldn't replicate, because after this battle, the Klein people would understand. Warriors of the Star Cluster Alliance might infiltrate Klein people bases to cause destruction when they are most relaxed. Gu Qijue's reckless actions also angered the Klein people. Like everyone else who had caused significant obstacles for the Klein people, he appeared on the Klein people's bounty list. Anyone who appeared before the Klein people with his energy core could receive a sky-high bounty. However, with the Klein people and the Star Cluster Alliance currently maintaining a stalemate, almost no one would do this. Gu Qijue didn't pay much attention to the outside commotion. He had returned to Fubei Port Base to process the spoils of war. The materials and energy stones he had accumulated were already very numerous. Now that the Infinite Engine could manufacture mechanical golden lions, he could increase the number of mechanical golden lions to about 10,000. If there could be 1 billion mechanical golden lion troops, then among all Star Cluster-level civilizations, the Infinite Empire would be the undisputed overlord. Mechanical golden lions were already very powerful, and mechanical golden lions upgraded and modified by the Infinite Engine had even greater combat capabilities. Among combat units of the same rank, no combat unit currently performs better on the battlefield than the mechanical golden lions. But mechanical golden lions also have 3 drawbacks. First, high manufacturing cost. Second, high maintenance costs. Third, high energy consumption. These 3 drawbacks can be summarized in 2 words: money burning. Mechanical golden lions are not just ordinary money burning, which is why even though Gu Qijue now has considerable resources, he only plans to expand their number to 10,000. To have 1 billion mechanical golden lion combat troops, the Infinite Empire's economy must be unprecedentedly prosperous. Or, it must control a large number of energy mines throughout the universe and star seas. Otherwise, 1 billion mechanical golden lion troops simply cannot be supported. The incident on Jaialan Star put Gu Qijue on the Klein people's kill list. So, while he was producing mechanical golden lions at Fubei Port Base, he was also on high alert. He felt that the probability of the Klein people attacking Jaialan Star next was not very high. Jaialan Star's current defense level was already very high, but the possibility of the Klein people attacking Fubei Port Base was still very high. He had repeatedly inflicted losses on the Klein people's combat units, and the Klein people definitely harbored a desire to eliminate him quickly. Fubei Port Base now looks not much different from usual, but it has actually entered the highest state of combat readiness. 3,000 Golden Lion King warriors have transformed into their mechanical Golden Lion combat forms, ready to strike at any time. 10 million battle-hardened elites of the Blackstone Legion have also completed their war preparations. Although the Divine Light Legion and Moonlight Legion are not in this location, they can quickly rush to reinforce once the war begins. The mechanical Golden Lions continuously produced by the Infinite Engine will be put into battle as soon as they are manufactured. In the core area of Fubei Port Base, the B-class Universe-level starship, Lionheart King, will be stationed later. Although the Lionheart King cannot take off at present, its weapon system can be used normally. In short, Fubei Port Base is currently outwardly relaxed but inwardly tense, which is very deceptive. It not only has powerful firepower and elite warriors, but also reinforcements that can arrive at any time. It's just unknown if the Klein people, like a rabbit, will run into a tree. In fact, the Klein people were preparing to deal with Gu Qijue. Gu Qijue had already disrupted many of the Klein people's operations, and his potential was great, posing an increasing threat to the Klein people. Therefore, after the Jaialan Star incident, the Klein people began combat preparations targeting Fubei Port Base. The reason for the delay was not that the Klein people's combat preparations required so much time. Rather, they discovered that the situation at Fubei Port Base seemed unusual. At first glance, everything at Fubei Port Base was as usual, with everything operating normally. But several commanders of the Klein people felt that Fubei Port Base seemed to be a trap. This led them to make two decisions. The first decision was to wait for an opportune moment, no matter how formidable Gu Qijue was. There would surely be times when he was lax. The second decision was to prepare for war, assuming Fubei Port Base was a terrible trap. That is to say, even if Fubei Port Base was extremely deadly, they could cope if they made sufficient preparations. Fubei Port Base, Command Hall, Gu Qijue, Han Yiming, and Hua Linglong were all present. Gu Qijue pondered for a long time and then said, "The Klein people either won't return, or they will launch a more lethal attack. We can either abandon Fubei Port Base now, or make more preparations. What are your thoughts?" Han Yiming represented Vice Premier Hansen of the Vermilion Bird Star Cluster, and Hua Linglong represented the Huyu Legion. Their attitudes would influence Gu Qijue's subsequent decisions. Han Yiming thought for a moment and countered. What other preparations are needed? His personality was previously more cautious. But gradually, he was led astray by Gu Qijue, beginning to take unconventional and risky approaches. After confirming that there was profit to be made, Han Yiming had decided to take a risk. He would also prepare his father, Vice Premier Hansen, to fully support their adventurous operation. Hua Linglong remained silent for a moment, then truthfully said, "I need to go back and ask for the opinions of the higher-ups." Although she could fully command the Huyu Legion, for a battle of this level, the support of only the Huyu Legion was clearly insufficient. Gu Qijue nodded slightly and said, "Go and ask now." Hua Linglong nodded upon hearing this, then left the command hall. The Klein people could attack at any time, so these matters should be completed as soon as possible. The high-ranking officials of the Huyu Star Cluster largely agreed with Gu Qijue's judgment. However, the Huyu Star Cluster was also deeply mired in the quagmire of war. They could provide support to Gu Qijue, but the support they could offer would not be very much. When Hua Linglong left, Han Yiming also departed. The three met again a day later. 347, Invitation for Joint Development, Thunder Dragon Riders, Fubei Port Base in the Command Hall. This time, besides Gu Qijue, Han Yiming, and Hua Linglong, there was another person in the hall. This person was not a conventional life form, but an energy state life. Although the other party also had a human form, it was a human-shaped mass of energy. The other party came from the Thunder Star Cluster civilization. All life forms in the Thunder Star Cluster civilization are energy state. The Thunder Star Cluster civilization does not belong to the Star Cluster Alliance. The other party came to Gu Qijue for cooperation. because the Thunder Star Cluster civilization does not have a great demand for technology. Their technological development is very abnormal. Although the Thunder Star Cluster civilization is very safe now, they clearly understand the principle of being prepared for danger in times of peace. After much deliberation and some special intelligence, they decided to cooperate with the Infinite Empire to develop their technological system. The one who came to discuss cooperation with Gu Qijue this time was Gu Qijue. The surname Yuan is a prominent surname in the Thunder Star Cluster. Their clan members are generally named with a surname plus a number. From Yuan Yi to Yuan Ershi. They are all elders in their clan. Yuan Shiju's electronic voice now echoed in the command hall. Chief Gu, what have you decided? What Yuan Qijue was referring to was the invitation for the Infinite Empire and the Thunder Star Cluster civilization to jointly develop technology. The culture and abilities of the Thunder Star Cluster civilization are quite unique. Their high priests, using magical artifacts, possess powerful divination abilities. This high priest divined the presence of high-end talents from the Tianyuan Star Cluster civilization within the Infinite Empire. Furthermore, it was divined that the Infinite Empire possesses some special technological research and development capabilities, although this information was very vague. This information still indicated that the Infinite Empire is a potential stock, based on various reasons. Elder Yuan Qijue personally came to Fubei Port Base to meet Gu Qijue. Gu Qijue thought for a moment, then said, I agree to this cooperation. However, I need the Thunder Dragon Riders of the Thunder Star Cluster to assist me in some battles. The Thunder Star Cluster civilization's skill tree is very skewed, so they have some strange technologies and strange things. For example, the Thunder Dragon Riders are a specialty of the Thunder Star Cluster civilization. Elder Yuan Qijue held great power, so after Gu Qijue spoke, he immediately said, as a token of sincerity, I can dispatch 100,000 E-rank Thunder Dragon Riders to assist Chief Gu in battle. However, when will Chief Gu help us develop a technological system suitable for the Thunder Star Cluster civilization? A technological system is not essential, but having one is definitely better than not having one. For example, dinosaurs could become overlords of a planetary civilization for a certain period without a technological system. But with and without a technological system, they are clearly two different concepts. The same applies to the Thunder Star Cluster civilization. They can fly, emit energy, and so on without technological equipment. However, if there is a technological system suitable for them to empower them, the overall strength of the Thunder Star Cluster civilization will definitely reach a higher level. Since Elder Yuan Qijue had already shown sufficient sincerity, Gu Qijue was naturally also generous. He said to Elder Yuan Qijue, you can make a list of all the scientific technologies you need. Afterward, we will classify this list from easy to difficult, from basic to complex. Then we will provide a research and development plan for corresponding time periods, meaning what technological problems will be solved for the Thunder Star Cluster civilization from what time to what time. Elder Yuan, what do you think? Yuan Qijue pondered for a moment, then said, agreed. Happy cooperation. The intervention of the Thunder Star Cluster civilization was very unexpected for Gu Qijue, because the star domain where the Thunder Star Cluster civilization is located is very far from here. However, their space teleportation technology is very powerful. After the discussion, Elder Yuan Qijue was instantly surrounded by electric light and completed the teleportation. Soon, 100,000 Thunder Dragon Riders will appear in Blackstone Base. The reason for not placing the 100,000 Thunder Dragon Riders at Fubei Port Base was, of course, to catch the Klein people off guard. After Yuan Qijue left, Han Yiming and Hua Linglong both brought some rather good news. Vice Premier Hansen of the Vermilion Bird Star Cluster and the high-ranking officials of the Huyu Star Cluster all provided some support for Gu Qijue's current operation. Next, they just had to wait for the Klein people to take action against Fubei Port Base. While other bases and strongholds were worried about being attacked by the Klein people, Gu Qijue was different. He had already begun to eagerly await the Klein people. This time, the Klein people did not appear suddenly. They seemed to have given up on attacking Fubei Port Base. Fortunately, Gu Qijue had been using the Infinite Engine to manufacture soldiers and equipment during this period, so he could continue to stall them indefinitely. Of course, if the Klein people really didn't come, there was nothing he could do. Initially, many people's judgments were the same as Gu Qijue's. Everyone believed that after some time, the Klein people would inevitably launch an attack on Fubei Port Base, where Gu Qijue was located. But after the Klein people launched numerous attacks in other places again, and there was still no movement at Fubei Port Base, many people felt that the Klein people had probably given up on attacking Fubei Port Base, not to mention them. Even Gu Qijue himself was thinking similarly now. The 100,000 Thunder Dragon riders from the Thunder Star Cluster civilization had already been transported to the Black Stone base in the Huenlin Star Cluster in recent days. If the Klein people attacked Fubei Port Base, he could teach them a good lesson. However, no matter how long he waited, the Klein people just wouldn't come. Just as Gu Qijue began to plan to take the initiative and stir up trouble somewhere, the Klein people finally arrived after much anticipation. Crack, crack! The cosmic void realm around Fubei Port Base shattered one after another. A large number of Klein people continuously emerged from the void REALM Chinese letter, one after another. Ultra-long-distance space teleportation devices were quickly set up at this time. Subsequently, a large number of Klein people's starships and numerous large-scale offensive weapons quickly appeared. Next, Fubei Port Base suffered a saturation bombardment. Boom, 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 boom. Countless missiles and countless laser cannons fired fiercely at this moment. Most of Fubei Port Base's facilities were instantly pulverized into fragments. However, some important facilities were supported by energy shields of the same level as the mechanical Golden Lions. For safety, these energy shields were not one layer, but 3 layers. Gu Qijue's actions were not superfluous. The Klein people harbored extreme resentment towards him, and their current attack was more ferocious than any other time. Although these energy shields used the same technology as the mechanical Golden Lions, because of their immense size, their defensive effectiveness did not reach the most perfect level. 348, the powerful enemy has been annihilated. The Star Cluster Alliance is in an uproar. Under the Klein people's continuous artillery bombardment, 1 layer of the 3-layer energy shield was still destroyed. When the Klein people's artillery fire ceased, and they began low-altitude and ground combat, numerous cracks had already appeared in the 2nd layer of the energy shield. According to the Klein people's past experience, the Fubei Port Base's defense system should have been completely paralyzed by now. They only needed to come now and harvest the lives of the soldiers who weren't blown to bits. But this time, the Klein people were undoubtedly overthinking it. Most of the Fubei Port Base's buildings and facilities had indeed been reduced to ruins. However, those things were originally meant to deceive the Klein people. Their overwhelming artillery fire just now had caused no casualties whatsoever. All 10 million combat troops of the Blackstone Legion were in the underground base. The rest of the non-combat personnel had been working in the underground base almost the entire time. What remained on the surface were 10,000 mechanical Golden Lions. Although the Klein people's artillery fire was fierce, these mechanical Golden Lions already possessed powerful energy shields. During this period, their barracks had even constructed external energy shield bunkers. Therefore, the mechanical Golden Lions suffered no battle damage from the recent bombardment. As the overwhelming numbers of Klein people entered the ground and low-altitude areas, Commander Gu Qijue also walked out of the command hall. His expression was calm, without the slightest panic. He appeared directly in midair and began to direct the battle. Mechanical Golden Lions. Attack the Klein people's transport devices and large weapons. Blackstone Legion, attack the Klein people entering the ground battlefield. As Commander Gu Qijue's words fell, the Divine Light Legion and Moonlight Legion also teleported over immediately. Commander Gu Qijue immediately continued to order. Divine Light Legion, Moonlight Legion, one on the left and one on the right. Attack the Klein people on the periphery. When the Thunder Dragon Riders appeared, Commander Gu Qijue also gave them orders. 100,000 Thunder Dragon Riders. Attack all enemies in the aerial battlefield. These Thunder Dragon Riders consisted of a giant dragon wreathed in blue lightning and a Thunder Star Cluster warrior wreathed in golden lightning. They wielded thunder lances, and their combat power was astonishing. With a sweep of their lances, terrifying chains of lightning that pierced the heavens and earth shot out. The Klein people had originally intended to enter the ground and low-altitude battlefields to carry out a massacre. According to their assumptions, the Fubei Port Base's defenders had little ability to resist. However, the combination of attacks unleashed by Commander Gu Qijue completely stunned these Klein people. This wasn't all, this time. Commander Gu Qijue didn't act as a spearhead combat force and charge into the battlefield. Instead, He was preparing to let the Klein people experience the might of a B-tier universe-class battleship. Behind the main battlefield, many of the Klein people's commanders and leaders were holding an emergency meeting. In the captain's cabin of the B-tier universe-class battleship, Lionheart King, Commander Gu Qijue brought up the Lionheart King's weapon system panel and selected the C-tier weapon system. He didn't choose the B-tier weapon system. Killing a chicken didn't require a butcher's knife, much less a nuclear bomb. C-tier weapon system loaded, ready to fire. Seeing the panel prompt, Commander Gu Qijue decisively aimed and fired. Boom! A multicolored laser beam suddenly fired, piercing through the heavens and earth. Boom, 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 wherever the laser beam passed. The Klein people's energy shields instantly melted. All their defensive measures were destroyed with overwhelming force. Many Klein people didn't even have time to react before they were directly blasted into atoms and molecules. The Klein people's commanders who were in the meeting, along with the Klein people's combat unit leaders, didn't even understand what had happened before they were all shattered into pieces. This was not an attack from a D-tier powerhouse, but an attack from a C-tier powerhouse. After doing all this, Commander Gu Qijue put away the Lionheart King interstellar battleship. Later, if anyone came to investigate the Fubei port base, they wouldn't know he possessed such a powerful weapon. The Klein people had undoubtedly kicked a titanium alloy plate this time. They were caught off guard from the very beginning. Shortly after the battle began, their commanders were blasted into molecules and atoms. Next, approximately 80 million Klein people soldiers fell into chaos. These F-tier, E-tier, and even some quasi-D-tier Klein people warriors directly collapsed and began to flee. But on the outer battlefield, the Divine Light Legion and Moonlight Legion were waiting at their leisure. Moreover, both the Divine Light Legion and Moonlight Legion had gained some powerhouses and top elites that they didn't have before. Commander Gu Qijue's battle on Jailan Star was a monument in his combat career. Then this time, he undoubtedly erected a second monument for his combat career. Soon, an incredibly sensational piece of news spread throughout the Gu star cluster, the Vermilion Bird star cluster, and the entire star cluster alliance. Commander Gu Qijue, stationed at Fubei Port Base, and his Blackstone Legion were attacked by 80 million Klein people warriors, but Commander Gu Qijue was fully prepared and responded appropriately. All 80 million Klein people who attacked Fubei Port Base were annihilated. As the news spread, the entire star cluster alliance boiled once again. Facing the sudden attack of the Klein people, Commander Gu Qijue not only defended Fubei Port Base, but also completely annihilated the enemy. This was the first time such a situation had occurred since the war began between the Star Cluster Alliance and the Klein people. This made Fubei Port Base a holy land. Many Star Cluster Alliances began to organize their commanders to visit Fubei Port Base for exchanges and learning. On the Vermilion Bird Star Cluster's side, Head of State Salisbury and the other high-ranking officials felt some regret. Strictly speaking, their decision was not problematic. Their decision ensured the interests of the Vermilion Bird Star Cluster to the greatest extent. However, what they didn't consider was that Commander Gu Qijue's potential was greater than they imagined. At that time, they shouldn't have set Commander Gu Qijue up. Instead, they should have shown more sincerity. Unfortunately, it was too late to say these things now. Of course, for Han Sen, who secretly supported Commander Gu Qijue, he had one big. When he decided to support Commander Gu Qijue and sent his eldest son there, he was making a huge gamble. Commander Gu Qijue's subsequent performances made him realize that he had gambled correctly. At Fubei Port Base, Commander Gu Qijue became the most eye-catching and brilliant new star in the Star Cluster Alliance. His radiance overshadowed all prodigies of similar standing. Although this battle established his prestige, the gains from it were not much and the consumption was considerable. After all, these Klein people came for revenge and did not carry many resources. Commander Gu Qijue hadn't even had time to calculate losses and gains. He had already received communication invitations from numerous heads of state. Because he was currently in the territory of the Gu Star Cluster civilization, he first accepted the invitation from the head of state of the Gu Star Cluster civilization. Please give recommendation tickets, monthly tickets, thanks, 349, the most genuine Star Cluster leader. Sincerity is the top priority. The holographic projection of Gu Star Cluster's head of state, Gu Qijue, soon appeared not far from Gu Qijue. Seeing Gu Qijue, Gu Qijue bowed slightly. Greetings, Your Excellency, the head of state. He didn't know why Gu Qijue had come, but he would have to deal with the Gu Star Cluster civilization for a long time to come. Therefore, he still needed to maintain a good relationship with Gu Qijue. After seeing Gu Qijue, Gu Qijue spoke directly, "Commander Gu, the Hu Star Cluster civilization wants to engage in more cooperation with you. As long as the cooperation benefits the Hu Star Cluster civilization in fighting the Klein people, we will agree and offer compensation with the utmost sincerity." Gu Qijue's meaning was very clear. That is, they wanted to cooperate with Gu Qijue in all aspects to enhance Hu Star Cluster's overall capability against the Klein people. Gu Qijue would help the Hu Star Cluster civilization improve its overall capability against the Klein people. In turn, the Hu Star Cluster civilization would give Gu Qijue generous compensation. Compared to the heads of state of other Star Cluster-level civilizations, Gu Qijue was clearly much more straightforward. Because she was at least clear on one point, what Gu Qijue needed was not empty promises, but tangible benefits. Since President Gu Qijue had spoken this way, Gu Qijue naturally wouldn't refuse. He immediately said, "I can provide support to the Hu Star Cluster in the following areas. First, intelligence. If it were the head of state of another Star Cluster-level civilization, they might have gotten angry upon hearing Gu Qijue's words. After all, Gu Qijue ostensibly belonged to the Vermilion Bird Star Cluster, but in reality, he was now just the leader of a mercenary group. Even if he could obtain intelligence from the Vermilion Bird Star Cluster civilization. But since the Hu Star Cluster and the Vermilion Bird Star Cluster were both Star Cluster-level civilizations, the Vermilion Bird Star Cluster's intelligence capability wouldn't be much stronger than Hu Star Cluster's. However, Gu Qijue did not get angry. Instead, she directly asked for specifics. "Could you elaborate?" Gu Qijue nodded. "Yes." After speaking, he pondered for a moment and summarized. "It mainly involves intelligence on the Klein people across various battlefields, as well as intelligence on the Klein people's weaponry. For both warring sides, intelligence is extremely important. Knowing the enemy's strength, their strategic deployment, and what they plan to do next allows for effective countermeasures. When Gu Qijue deals with the Klein people, he often manages to catch them off guard. This strongly suggests he possesses a very powerful intelligence system capable of identifying the Klein people's weak points." Hearing this, Gu Qijue nodded seriously. "Whenever we consult you for intelligence, we will negotiate payment each time." In an era where other partners spoke of dreams and empty promises, Gu Qijue spoke only of profit, which naturally gave her a dimensionality reduction strike against others. All the world's hustle and bustle is for profit, all the world's coming and going is for gain, not to mention doing difficult things. Even the simplest act of breathing requires the cooperation of multiple organs and tissues and the consumption of faint internal energy to complete. From the perspective of energy, even the simplest breath taken by a life form is not free. Given this, it is naturally better to be more pragmatic and have fewer empty promises. Gu Qijue quickly said, "Besides being an intelligence consultant, I can also serve as the weapons consultant for the Hu Star Cluster civilization. I am very familiar with most of the weaponry used by the Star Cluster Alliance and the Silver Flame Super Star Cluster civilization. I can help them achieve the optimal weapon configuration based on the actual situation of a combat unit. Furthermore, I can upgrade and iterate existing weapons, making most weapons and equipment more powerful and more stable." This time, Gu Qijue was essentially spouting nonsense, because these were the capabilities of the Infinite Engine, not his own. Of course, since he was the only one who possessed the Infinite Engine, making him unique, if he claimed this was his ability, no one else would detect any flaws. President Gu Qijue had no doubts at all at this moment and immediately nodded. Compared to head of state Salisbury, whose schemes were unfathomable, this President Gu Qijue was simply too easy to fool. Gu Qijue pondered for a moment and said, "Commander Gu's ability has been demonstrated many times already through the Blackstone Legion, Divine Light Legion, and Moonlight Legion. This capability is indeed very helpful for the Hu Star Cluster in dealing with the Klein people. For the consulting service regarding weapons and equipment, we will also provide Commander Gu with appropriate compensation. All in all, the matter of compensation is always negotiable." The resources controlled by the Hu Star Cluster civilization were actually not as vast as those of the Vermilion Bird Star Cluster civilization. However, the Hu Star Cluster civilization was more willing to share its benefits with the meritorious officials and friends of the Hu Star Cluster civilization. In the Vermilion Bird Star Cluster, The vast majority of benefits were monopolized by powerful families, making this kind of situation almost impossible. Gu Qijue quickly continued, in addition to being an intelligence consultant and a weapons consultant, I can also provide war services to the Gu star cluster civilization. As long as it is an E-rank cosmic-level battlefield, the Blackstone Legion can execute most combat missions. These were the 3 areas of cooperation he wanted to pursue with the Gu star cluster civilization. After hearing him finish, Gu Qijue immediately made the decision. I hereby formally appoint Commander Gu Qijue as the Gu star cluster's intelligence consultant, weapons consultant, and war consultant. From now on, Commander Gu Qijue may communicate directly with me. Gu Qijue knew very well that the Gu star cluster civilization had a significant weakness in warfare, and Gu Qijue happened to be the talent in this area. Since this was the case, she would naturally prioritize Gu Qijue's talent to the greatest extent. Next, Gu Qijue and Gu Qijue discussed some matters of profit and cooperation details. In this conversation, both parties got what they needed and were very satisfied. After speaking with President Gu Qijue, Gu Qijue accepted a communication invitation from his former employer, the Vermilion Bird Star Cluster's vice head of state. Hansen and Gu Qijue were already old acquaintances. After Gu Qijue left the Vermilion Bird Star Cluster, the benefits he brought to the Vermilion Bird Star Cluster were relatively limited. However, the benefits he brought to Hansen were enormous. Hansen didn't abuse his power for personal gain. His support for Gu Qijue was entirely out of his own pocket. Although the high-level officials of the Vermilion Bird Star Cluster didn't quite grasp the art of decision-making, Vice Premier Hansen clearly understood the art of investment. Not only was he an early investor in Gu Qijue, but he also sent his most valued eldest son to serve as Gu Qijue's assistant. Even though Gu Qijue knew Hansen was an old fox, he held no ill will toward him. Hansen saw Gu Qijue and immediately said with a chuckle, "It seems I gambled correctly again. What are your plans next?" Gu Qijue did not answer directly but kicked the ball back. "Your Excellency, the Vice Head of State, what do you think my next move should be?" Hearing this, Hansen said without hesitation, "You have quite a few things to do next. Let me briefly tell you about them. Please vote for monthly tickets, 350, Future Blueprint, BlackRock Legion Recruiting." Although Hansen did not possess the Infinite Engine, as a top-tier D-rank universe-level expert, he could advance to C-rank cosmic level at any time. Furthermore, having held a high position for many years, it was no problem for him to offer Gu Qijue some development advice now. Gu Qijue was not someone who completely ignored advice, so when Hansen spoke, he listened carefully. If what Hansen said was useful, he would take it to heart. If it was useless, he would simply dismiss it with a smile and tell Hansen not to mention it again next time. Hansen chose his words carefully and said, "Next, you should find ways to expand your army and occupy all the unclaimed resource planets nearby. At the same time, cooperate closely with all the surrounding star cluster-level civilizations. Finally, steadily develop the Infinite Empire within the Huenlin star cluster." Hansen's few words were basically in complete agreement with Gu Qijue's own thoughts. The resources of the Huenlin star cluster had basically been packaged up and taken away by the Klein people, but there were still some resource planets around the Huenlin star cluster. These resource planets contained relatively considerable resources that were worth mining. As for maintaining good relations with all the surrounding star cluster-level civilizations, that meant making as many friends as possible. As long as friendship was established, both parties could exchange necessities and reach cooperation agreements. Perhaps a certain resource he wanted to obtain would be extremely difficult to acquire, but a certain star cluster civilization nearby might have large quantities of this resource within their star domain. If he were a friend of that star cluster-level civilization, he would naturally be able to obtain this resource. There were many similar forms of cooperation, too numerous to list. The Infinite Empire was Gu Qijue's foundation. All activities of the Blackstone Legion were dedicated to supporting the development of the Infinite Empire. The Infinite Empire was developing at a very rapid pace. Although Tian Li, Jai Tianyu, and others had not shown their faces in the Star Cluster Alliance for a long time, under their governance, the Infinite Empire had now surpassed all galaxy-level civilizations and was marching rapidly toward becoming a Star Cluster-level civilization. Currently, the gap between the Infinite Empire and a Star Cluster-level civilization lay in 3 aspects: the number of experts, the size of the population, and the quantity of resources. The number of experts was being addressed by Gu Qijue through internal cultivation, external recruitment, and manufacturing using the Infinite Engine and Crystal Clan technology. The population size was being solved by accommodating Huenlin Star Cluster refugees and other war refugees. Finally, the quantity of resources was being resolved through war and trade. In short, the Infinite Empire was already on the right track. The call between Gu Qijue and Vice Premier Hansen lasted quite a while before ending. After the call ended, he immediately began recruiting warriors. Star Cluster Alliance. Communication channel. A recruitment message suddenly appeared. The appearance of this recruitment message immediately drew widespread attention. To better deal with the Klein people, the Blackstone Legion will recruit brave and tenacious warriors from the Star Cluster Alliance. Regardless of which star cluster they originate from, anyone possessing F-rank cosmic level strength or above, or special talent, may submit a resume to the Blackstone Legion. The compensation offered by the Blackstone Legion will be on par with the elite forces of the same rank in star cluster level civilizations. For other benefits, please check the detailed regulations. This message was posted by Gu Qijue. Therefore, when this recruitment message appeared, it instantly caused a huge sensation. A large number of warriors from star cluster level civilizations began viewing the detailed compensation regulations of the Blackstone Legion with great interest. Many people assumed that the standards for Blackstone Legion warriors would be similar to those for the elite forces of star cluster civilizations. However, upon closer inspection, they discovered that they were quite different. In the combat units of other star cluster level civilizations, people generally just went through the motions. In the Blackstone Legion, merit spoke for itself. The better one performed on the battlefield and the greater their contribution to the Blackstone Legion, the more benefits they received. In short, the Blackstone Legion was not suitable for retirement, but it offered many people an opportunity to strive forward aggressively. After careful consideration, many F-rank cosmic level and E-rank cosmic level warriors submitted their resumes to the Blackstone Legion. Naturally, those submitting resumes were mostly freelancers. If they belonged to a star cluster level civilization's combat unit, they would not be able to submit a resume. As countless resumes poured in, Gu Qijue immediately instructed the Infinite Engine to perform the screening. Filter out the warriors who are beneficial to the development of the Blackstone Legion and those who are suitable for it. Upon receiving the command, the Infinite Engine immediately started working. Gathering intelligence, please wait. Intelligence gathering for 190 million people complete. Starting analysis and screening. Analysis and screening complete. Recruit those who meet the requirements. Gu Qijue took a look and realized that the selection process for the Blackstone Legion was extremely strict. Nearly 200 million warriors of F rank and above submitted resumes, but only about 2 million ultimately passed the selection. In other words, the Infinite Engine's selection rate this time was around 1%. All the people screened by the Infinite Engine were 1 in 100 elites. Gu Qijue could be completely confident in the analytical and screening results provided by the Infinite Engine. These 2 million plus people might not be the absolute best, but currently they were definitely the most suitable for the Blackstone Legion. For the next period of time, Gu Qijue continued to repeat this process. A continuous stream of F-rank and E-rank cosmic level warriors headed toward the Fubei port base. Within the Fubei port base, the number of Blackstone Legion combat units also increased from the initial 10 million to 12 million. Then it became 20 million, and then even more. By the time this recruitment period ended, the Blackstone Legion's combat units successfully surpassed the 30 million mark. At the same time, the weapons and equipment of the Blackstone Legion once again received updates and upgrades. The equipment for the Blackstone Legion this time was provided by the Infinite Empire, Crystal Clan Technology, the Star Cluster Alliance, and the Silver Flame Super Star Cluster Civilization. In addition, some were purchased on behalf of the Thunder Star Cluster Civilization. That's right. Although the Thunder Star Cluster Civilization did not possess sufficient technological strength to provide the Blackstone Legion with weapons and equipment, they were located in a different Super Star Cluster star domain and could help the Blackstone Legion purchase items. These diverse and dazzling weapons and equipment were, of course, ultimately upgraded and modified by the Infinite Engine. During this period, the warriors of the Blackstone Legion also received exclusive training programs custom-designed for them by the Infinite Engine. Although Gu Qijue and his Blackstone Legion had been inactive for almost half a year, whether it was the Hu Star Cluster, The Vermilion Bird Star Cluster, or the Star Cluster Alliance, they all knew very well. The current Gu Qijue and the Blackstone Legion under his command were absolutely armed to the teeth and terrifyingly powerful. As the Blackstone Legion expanded its army to 30 million, its weapons and equipment saw a leap in quality, and both its individual and overall strength received tremendous boosts. Gu Qijue also began thinking about where he should go to make a big splash. 351. Dramatic changes have occurred in the Nanchen galaxy. The Blackstone Legion has been mobilized. After this battle, Gu Qijue planned to expand the Blackstone Legion to 60 million and then to 100 million as quickly as possible. Fubei Port Base is massive and can accommodate 1 billion combat troops. It was unrealistic for him to quickly acquire 1 billion elite combat troops. However, after several battles where he made a huge fortune, expanding the army to 100 million was not a major problem. After expanding the army to 30 million, Gu Qijue did not continue recruiting soldiers, but the gates of the Infinite Empire were always open to all sentient beings. As a result, the population of the Infinite Empire was rapidly increasing every day. Dedicated routes were established from various star cluster civilizations to transport people to the Infinite Empire. Although the Infinite Empire is currently only recognized as the #1 galaxy-level civilization, the Infinite Empire is definitely very safe. So far, the Infinite Empire and its surroundings have not been attacked by the Klein people. Furthermore, the Infinite Empire possesses extremely formidable combat capabilities. Compared to the combat forces of many star cluster-level civilizations, the Infinite Empire and the Blackstone Legion could better provide them with a safe living environment. On the communication channels of the Star Cluster Alliance, many experts also analyzed and predicted. In this great upheaval, the Infinite Empire would seize the opportunity to rise and become a new star cluster-level civilization. Although this matter has not yet become reality, the trend is already very clear. What the public did not know was that besides the Infinite Empire in the Huenlin star cluster developing vigorously, the Infinite Empire within the Crystal Clan universe remnant was also developing at an even faster pace. The many experts and scholars of the Star Cluster Alliance were debating whether the Infinite Empire was on the second layer or the third layer. The true Infinite Empire was actually in the stratosphere. However, this was the Infinite Empire's top secret, and outside of the Crystal Clan universe remnant, only Gu Qijue knew this secret. While Gu Qijue was considering where to conquer next, he received a distress call from the Huyu star cluster. After accepting the communication request, he saw that all the high-ranking officials of the Huyu star cluster had serious expressions. Gu Qijue bowed slightly. "Greetings, Your Excellency, the head of state. Has something happened?" Upon hearing this, Gu Qijue immediately nodded. The Nanchen star system of the Huyu star cluster has been attacked by the Klein people. The Nanchen star system is the southernmost resource star domain of the Huyu star cluster. Located deep in the rear of the Huyu star cluster, previously, the battlefields between the Huyu star cluster and the Klein people were all in the west and north. We have already deployed a large number of combat troops to enter the Nanchen resource star system for battle. However, we still need rescue teams to transfer civilians, some researchers, and important equipment. The Nanchen resource star system is one of the talent cradles of the Huyu star cluster civilization. That resource star domain can be lost, but the population within the star domain must not be. Gu Qijue and the others had already taken maximum countermeasures, even hiring the Blackstone Legion to participate in the rescue. Gu Qijue originally thought it was a combat commission, but unexpectedly it was a rescue mission. But it was not a big problem if the opportunity arose. He would take out the Klein people. It was as if these Klein people could never be completely killed, their presence could be found everywhere. Gu Qijue pondered for a moment, then nodded. "The Blackstone Legion and I will depart immediately." After Gu Qijue agreed, Gu Qijue and the others remained worried. At this moment, they could only hope that as many talented individuals as possible in the Nanchen star system would be rescued and safely relocated. At the same time, Gu Qijue gathered his troops and instructed the Infinite Engine to collect intelligence. His voice appeared in the ears of every soldier at Fubei Port Base. "Blackstone Legion. All soldiers heed the order. Assemble immediately and prepare to board the starships. In 3 minutes, all soldiers will orderly board their respective starships. Our battlefield this time is the Nanchen star system of the Huyu star cluster. The mission of the Blackstone Legion is to protect as many civilians in the Nanchen star system as possible." After entering the Nanshan star system, I will issue tasks to all squads. Although the Blackstone Legion now has over 30 million soldiers and more than 6,000 interstellar warships, however, the Blackstone Legion still utilizes 5-person squads. In such a chaotic, large-scale battlefield, breaking the whole into parts and operating in 5-person squads can clearly rescue more people. After rescuing the majority of the civilians, they would then concentrate their forces for a decisive battle against the Klein People's combat troops. When the Blackstone Legion once again left Fubei Port Base, many people in the Star Cluster Alliance focused their attention on them. The previously highly publicized Blackstone Legion had been lying low for half a year. Everyone wanted to know what stunning performance the Blackstone Legion would deliver this time. Gu Qijue certainly did not disappoint everyone. All of the Blackstone Legion's starships actually possessed ultra-long-distance spatial teleportation capabilities. Soon after the Blackstone Legion left Fubei Port Base, they immediately teleported outside the Nanshan Resource Star System. Subsequently, 6,000 mighty interstellar battleships anchored in the cosmic void realm. A large number of aircraft, along with a large number of soldiers, broke up into smaller units and entered the Nanshan Star Cluster to save people. The 5-person squads of the Blackstone Legion were highly efficient at rescue. When they encountered small numbers of Klein people, they almost always eliminated them swiftly and decisively. These 5-person squads would sometimes combine into 100-person groups to attack the temporary strongholds of the Klein people, showing great flexibility. After the Blackstone Legion entered the Nanshan Resource Star System, their performance was extremely impressive. Not only were they powerful in combat, but their search and rescue equipment was also top-tier, resulting in extremely high rescue efficiency. In this process, the Infinite Engine continuously provided intelligence support to everyone. However, the soldiers of the Blackstone Legion were unaware of the existence of the Infinite Engine. They only knew that all their intelligence came from the Emperor flagship. Within the Blackstone Legion's Emperor flagship, there seemed to be some kind of black technology that collected, analyzed, and provided advice based on intelligence. The combat forces of other legions relied entirely on their own abilities when entering the Nanshan Resource Star System. The members of the Blackstone Legion, however, acted as if they had a minimap, fully aware of everything on the battlefield. This led to a very astonishing phenomenon. Other combat units took a long time to transfer a few civilians to the rear. Meanwhile, the 5-person squads of the Blackstone Legion constantly moved back and forth, transferring the wounded and civilians. This group of people seemed like divine troops descending from the heavens. Many civilians and wounded who had fallen into despair were rescued. When some Klein people saw the Blackstone Legion, their scalps felt numb. In this way, more and more civilians were rescued. Even the half-dead wounded soldiers from other combat units were rescued by the Blackstone Legion. After the Blackstone Legion lay low for almost half a year, they have been continuously creating surprises for the outside world from their reappearance until now. This gave the people of the Star Cluster Alliance greater expectations for the Blackstone Legion. 352, Ace Against Ace, Crystal Group's Technological Jewel, Chapter 352, The Legend of Stigma, Super Universe Civilization Ruins. The Klein people's attack on the Nanshan Resource Star System